go! Okay, sorry. I realized I hit the start stream button. I forgot to speak because I'm stupid.
It's streaming time, let's go!
Let me real quickly just slap a quick reminder in because I just remember something I want to do after the stream. Where the frick is that? There it is. Let's see. So I want to do let's see. Okay, there we are. So that's done. I have the reminder set up. So there's two things on the stream schedule for the day. The first is I can make a video out of something by reacting to a video. I know I don't normally react to videos, but there's one that I feel like I have particular presence over. And I have a feeling that the person who made the video is not going to understand what they're talking about at all. So I feel like it is going to be a very enlightening video. And then option two is that I could go straight into the coding stuff and then do the sort of counter rebut to that one video that I stumbled across later. So what I will do is I'll make a little poll. We'll go right here. We'll start a poll. I'll do reaction video now ? With the default yes no answers. So this is a little bit of a mix-up. The only reason why I'm doing like a reaction thing right now is because I feel like this is like especially prevalent to like a like area that I've like played in, and like hey, it would be something that I could like somewhat easily turn into a video. So hey, benefit I think maybe. Honestly, couldn't tell you. So I'll wait a second for that poll to run. You're the only one here. Well, you voted yes, so I guess we're doing it. Oh, wait. I should probably fix one more thing. There we are. Okay. So, let me then very quickly pause the music, because if I pause the music or mute it, whatever, that'd be a lot better. Okay. So, make sure I have the video up, because videos being up is probably a good thing to do. Crazy idea. I know. Why can't I hear myself? I don't want to hear myself now. Why were you so good for so long and then you did this? Okay. So, the video is this. Unreal Engine 5 is literally killing games. So, when I obviously do this, like you know, the video, I'm gonna cut like a lot more of it out, blah blah blah. But like, we're gonna let the guy cook. The guy is a radical cap. So here's their channel for proper credit in the future. Damn, they've had some videos pop off, but hey. Let us see. So, sorry, what was it? Chopped ass face that guy has. I mean, fair enough, I suppose. This video someone popped off. I didn't read the comments at all. I haven't done anything like that. The entire thing is that I initially strongly disagree with this title. So like, I want to like send my little feelers into it and like see what's see how it goes. So. Yeah, without further ado, let's roll straight into it, shall we? Have a little creepy peeky on it. Oh, here, I should probably turn captions on. Whoops, whoop. Ha! There. Somewhat. Yeah. So the inherent issue that I already have there is the except for us part, because this immediately makes me like the way that I'm already interpreting this, and this is basically as far as I watched before I was like, okay, like this is something I like want to give my 2 bits on, is because they're inherently implying that like the consumer is like hates Unreal Engine. My bet is on games where they disabled the splash screen, the majority of people would not be able to tell. Like, I'm talking like 60 to 80% of people would probably not be able to tell the engine that a game's made in. And even the ones who do, I just realized my mic was set up wrong. Haha, I am a professional. Wow. Yeah. So, like, let me put it this way, right? So, when we think of frickin' Unreal, right? What we normally think of is we think of Mario in Unreal. We normally think of something like this, right? Like, we think of this, I don't know if that's copyright or not, so I'm going to mute that, but we normally think of this post, and then, there was kind of a trend of people, like, pointing at this, and, like, I don't want to say, like, laughing, but, like, definitely pointing out what I think are some very valid critiques about this, right? And I agree, largely, but, like, this is what most people think of as Unreal. This is what most people think of as the Unreal look, right? Like, that's kind of what makes sense, right? The issue is that there's quite a few games in Unreal that definitely break that mold. So a devlog series, so I'll do two. So the first one is a game that I think has been released, which is Nightmare Kart. Oh, it's KRT. So Nightmare Kart, this thing right here, this is an Unreal game. Unreal is not real because it's Unreal. Exactly. But this is an Unreal Engine game. Right here. This is an Unreal project, right? So, like, this is immediately something where you're going to look at this and it's like, okay, so, like, is the Unreal stigma that you're inherently providing actually valid or not? Because, so I don't want to go too into this point because I feel like I'll bring it up later, but this feels like a big point of, like, them not understanding that as tools become more accessible, people are going to try and make games. And then in trying to make games, they're going to release bad games because they need to be less skilled to make said games, right? It's the whole lowering the bar doesn't necessarily make it, like, better for everybody, right? So yeah, so shout out to Lilith. I don't know them personally. I just don't want to take a chance of butchering their last name, and then let's roll forward. So let's carry forward. Okay, so I know I'm pausing a lot. I apologize, but this is going to be a huge issue. Is that so? This guy already made the argument of in comparison to in-house engines, right? The inherent issue with that is that to build to multiple platforms, you need to have multiple build steps, right? Like multiple build targets. Like, I'm not going to go super into it, but, like, to have an engine that exports to PC, Mac, and Linux is already a big enough objective, right? And then to expand that to, Xbox, PlayStation, and the Switch, that is more work. Like, it isn't free to just develop these platforms. So sort of the like question of compromise, that isn't a question that the consumer is really asking. That's a question that the developers are needing to ask, right? And they're the ones who are, effectively making the decision. Also, clicks, yes. Clicks are very epic and awesome. But yeah, so that's kind of a really big gripe initially. Let's let them roll on a little bit more. So, another gripe already is that the engine doesn't really matter at all, right? Like, when it comes to performance, don't get me wrong, Unreal is definitely a heavier engine, but Unreal can run really, like, optimized games, right? Like Unreal is not a bottleneck traditionally, and if a game developer is complaining about the engine, it's... Sorry, I had a little raspberry seed that was, like, I don't know, I guess in my toothy or something, like, go down my throat and it was instantly like... Anyways, but it's the freaking Midwit meme, right? Where the issue is like, here, let's just look it up like a blank version. It's like it's like left and right is like Unreal Engine 5 is limiting me or something like that, right? Like it's like the outer sides are just Unreal 5 is not performant enough. Where here you have like the C++ wizard who can write like a USB driver from scratch, not using any AI, and then you have this guy who's like Unreal bad, therefore I'm going to use something else, right? Like, that's basically what that is. And then, I don't know, the middle guy here would be, this would be whatever. Very, very, very great. But you get the idea, right? Well, that is also what they mentioned earlier, where again, what they brought up is outsourcing development, which in a large commercial development studio like frickin' CD Projekt Red, they're optimizing for cost, not quality, right? Now, that being said, a in-house engine is actually a competitive advantage if the engine is good, but what's currently happening effectively is that Fortnite is bringing in so much like money that Unreal can effectively just keep hucking money at developers hand over fist just to hope that they get anything good out, right? So at this point, competing with Unreal is very difficult, which is why game engines, in my opinion, to compete with Unreal need to stop trying to be Unreal, and they need to take a new pivot in a way that is like different, right? Because like there's a bunch of engines that I've seen, right? Because I've done some engine research, and basically every engine that I have witnessed is trying to be like RPG Maker, Unity, or Unreal. Like those are the three structures that they take, and I do think there is like, I don't know what that looks like, but I would almost like I can effectively guarantee there is some medium where like that isn't being properly explored and can be explored more. And then not just that too, but like if you're building a game from like the ground up, or not like from well, I guess ground up. If you're building a game from much lower level, you can optimize your engine around the parts that are more taxing, instead of having to have this like homunculus of an engine. But let's keep rolling. No way this motherfucker just said 343 industries. It's 343. Everybody says 343. I'm sorry, you were objectively wrong by the community vote. Okay, so two issues there, wombo combo. First issue is that, so Halo is currently on a bit of a crash course right now. From what I recall, there was some article which was something along the lines of like, Halo devs prototyped game like Helldivers. Yeah, once pitched ODST game similar to Helldivers. So the issue is right now is that because okay, so like what we have to understand in this bubble is that Microsoft is a large company, and a large company does not give a single fuck about creative like potential or energy or anything like that. What Microsoft wants is the funny money that you get from the frickin' game, right? Like Microsoft will happily, you know, frickin' step over anyone in order to get said funny money, right? They don't want to invest, they don't wish to be creative, and they don't wish to do anything like that. So with the whole Unreal Dev thing, it's like it's incredibly frustrating to see it spun as just, oh, they're abandoning the in-house engine because it's better, and it's like, well, no, it's not. Moving to Unreal also just makes a lot more financial sense instead of having an entire development department and maintaining your engine if Unreal is sufficient enough. Yeah, I said stuff similar to that, like, because like the way that Microsoft would view it in the Halo sense, right, is that they're offloading development to somebody else, right? So as long as the development costs are equal to or more than 5% of the revenue, I think it is, that Unreal takes, then of course it's a win. And well, guess what a lot of cost when it comes to making a game is going to be? It's going to be the developers. So then that's going to be a significant chunk of change shaved off. Now, my one issue is with it is that now you are effectively digging yourself into a moat. And I know Microsoft Microsoft is very fond of these. 5% after the first million, if you recall correctly, too. Yeah, exactly. And that is a thing that they do specify. So Unreal is cool for indie devs. The main issue is that we're reaching a point where Microsoft should be very familiar about this is monopolies, right? So the issue is that at a certain point, Unreal might claim so much of like a market dominance that they might just jack that rate from 5 to 15% or something, right? That being said, I see it being incredibly unlikely because, you know, Epic Games is making money hand over fist with Fortnite, right? Like they're not doing bad now, but the issue is that, like, well, if Fortnite falls off, like, people stop caring. Very hard, very far-fetched, right? But if it does happen, because everything dies at some point, right? Then it's the issue of that, like, has Unreal or Epic Games / Unreal Engine been built in a long-term sustainable way? Because if it hasn't been, then they're going to need to shift their marketing and pricing and all that other shit, right? Which then becomes a whole other issue. So that's something that is low-key terrifying about the whole Unreal dominance that's happening right now. But yeah, let's roll forward with the judgment a little bit more. Okay, sorry, I'll let him finish. I'll read my message in just a second. Oh wait, I'm gonna insert a period there. Most likely won't happen as Unity and Godot are still alternatives for things like 2D games, especially mobile. Yeah, totally. Like that is one thing, is that Unreal for mobile is okay from what I've heard. It hasn't been amazing though. From what I've heard, Unity is pretty much the king, and then Godot is kind of like if you want to suffer through it. But like 2D games, definitely like as somebody who's experimented with both, Unreal's 2D games are basically non-existent, right? Like Unreal 2D is effectively 2.5D, where you're forcing the game to be 3D, right? Or 2D. And then like everything is still in like a specifically 3D mode. Unity does a very similar thing, if I recall correctly. It's been a hot minute since I played with Unity, but Unity does like a similar thing, but it has more streamlined processes for it. Like there's like specific 2D nodes that you can use and like tools and whatever. Where like Unreal is like, no, everything is 3D, whereas Unreal has some things to streamline the 2D process. And then Godot, if you create a 2D scene, will like in some cases not like literally not allow you to go 3D. You could import the 2D object into a 3D scene, but like that 2D object is quite literally two-dimensional. It has no like depth to it, right? And then on to frickin' this thing with the Stalker 2 optimizations thing is like, let's put it this way. You have developers who are used to using different tools who now suddenly switch to a new tool, who now need to try to do similar optimizations. That's just going to be a bad bet, right? Like, anytime you switch anybody to a new tool, it's going to be a bad idea. And I can almost promise you that like the development studio had like a publishers pushing them to release the game. I can almost promise that the game was not released in the stage like the area, whatever, like this, the quality that the developers wanted, right? But like, it was probably somebody who just forced out the door. Also, deadlines pressuring to get it done on time instead of doing them well. Yeah, so you gotta love that stream delay, am I right? But yeah, like exactly, like it's like to be very clear, there are certain things that I definitely hate Unreal about, and I'll go into that later. But like, I don't think any of this is valid so far. So I mean, let's let him talk more. Hey, Friesic. How's it going? I mean, as I mentioned already, the whole monopolization of the market. But let's roll forward. Well, at least I said it. I said it first. Okay, so what am I doing? I'm reacting to one small video before we roll into the code stuff, because this is a video that I stumbled across, which I have particular feelings about. So what I was going to say about this real quickly is, you know who else doesn't like this stuff? Credit card companies. Do you remember ages ago that like one article? I should probably remove some of these tabs. You remember that one article which was like OnlyFans removes adult content? There should be like yeah. Why did OnlyFans reverse this ban on sexual content? So that at least shows that they did for 1 second. The CEO never really actually stated this, but it was actually largely stated, or sorry, like largely implied that the reason why is because of companies like MasterCard or Visa. I don't remember which one it was. They both have very similar policies. But yeah, guess what? Credit card companies are just kind of assholes who like also don't want you to do this shit. Like, I'm pretty sure Visa or MasterCard, I don't recall exactly the one, but one of them quite literally in their terms of service, like if you wish to use them as a payment provider, like cannot, like they literally forbid you from using it on like adult content. Like that is literally in the terms of service. And like, you know, hey, to give crypto one fucking prop is like, at least you can you can't ban Bitcoin as like a thing, right? Like that is the one thing that I can see being like a soft benefit to crypto, and I think that's the only good thing that I can like think about directly with crypto. But yeah, like that's kind of that, right? So like it's not just that, but I'm thinking about this further, right? And it's like every game you have like ever played has very strict like language policies, right? Like every company, every website, every social media, like yeah, you can view these terms however you wish, right? Like I'm not going to draw a strict line on it, but it's like you are fucking mad if you think that like Just Unreal is doing this and like Just Unreal is calling it bad. You were just dead wrong if that's the case. That is a frame to pause on. Okay. That was a hell of a pause. I did not see any fucking transition there to this image. So I was like, oh, we're just going to pause on this guy's fucking face and then this. Okay. Well, so I'm going to dodge the whole anti-LGTB tones there. I'm gonna pretend I didn't hear that and move on. Discord getting gay for stream. Exactly. But like no, like again, so like with the language as well is like I forget like if you look at like I do think some like language policy has gone too far. Because, but like again, like it's like this is just the current state that we live in. Twitch bans term. Let's see. Blind speed run. Yeah, so they ban those terms. I could have sworn at some point I heard blind speed run has been banned. Oh, these are the people that just got banned, and the tags blind speed run and blind pay through because it's offensive to blind people. Yeah, like, like I hope it's I hope it's implied that like my channel is like LGBT friendly, obviously, and like I do think that like some people go a bit hard with the wording, but like that's just kind of where we're at. Like, it's just kind of the fucking world right now. So like. I think the like rally of specifically pointing at like Unreal and being like you're bad when like there's so many other things. It feels like you're just trying to pad a script, you know, like this is like, you know, a 5-page essay and they're like, ah shit, I needed a paragraph. Like that's what it feels like right now. Mm-hmm. Okay, I mean, IMO, most of the issues are caused by business side of game dev and everything else touching it. Not strictly the engine or the game devs. Yeah, exactly. Like, guess what? When you have a bunch of suits trying to get involved, it's like the whole thing turns to shit, right? Like, it's like I'm not trying to be like over harsh, right? But it's like legitimately one of those things where like this to me just screams naive, right? Like, I think it was the Primogen did something where I think it was the Primogen. Shout out to the Primogen. Let's see, Primogen, youtube.com/the Primogen. Well, guess the guy's not here. Anyways, but so the Primogen, he did something along the lines of like, what was it again? He did frickin', he told this story that was like, so they did like some Facebook integration with like Netflix or something, right? And then like if I recall correctly, the story was like they like shared it with somebody at Facebook. They like left the room. The person from Facebook then came back and was like, "You're now in a lawsuit. Don't delete anything." Like that was like literally the words that I like recall them saying. And I think it was the Primogen. It might have been somebody else, but I believe it was the Primogen. And it was just so funny because it's like, yeah, like companies are just kind of assholes, right? Like you would like I think it was over something stupid like integrating like a share button or something. And like unauthorized use of like a trademark or something stupid like that, right? Like that's how petty it was. And then the company was like, "So, well, you're getting sued now," and it's just like, what? So like, yeah, that is an issue, to be clear. But like, if you're intending on doing something that is, I would say, more thought-provoking is a polite way to put it, then like maybe you should consider using a like open source engine like Godot for like reasons like that, right? Like, you know, maybe a good idea. I mean, maybe because they're not trying to go for like photorealistic. Maybe they're trying to go for hyper realistic. Like, let's just rewind a tiny bit to like try find the exact frame they were at because I don't want to be overly harsh. But like, it's like, if I look at this game doesn't look like it's trying to be photorealistic to me, right? This to me looks like a game that is trying to have a realistic vibe. Like this person right now, like, I'm gonna pull the card. It feels like they're just pulling out like they got AI to like write them a script, because like I've commented on this before, is that like what Unreal does is this a framework, right? It gives you like, you know, a scaffolding to start building upon, and then it lets you go from there. Because here's a fun little thing. When I did Unreal Engine development, guess what you can do? You can go to fucking github.com. Give me a second. Okay, let me sign in off screen, because if I don't, that's going to be a very bad idea. Let's do this. We'll sign in, Give me a second. This has a point. This has a point. This has a point. And then, hey, guess what? Yeah, guess what? If we go back to frickin' GitHub, right? Guess what? Oh, look at this. Epic Game /developers. I wonder what that means. Oh, what was that? Fucking, I can't read it. Community of Unreal Engine source developers. You can play with the fucking Unreal Engine, like, source code. Like, you can just do that. If you go to Epic Games, like, the source code is available. Like, you can take apart parts of the engine. If you actually care about something related to Unreal, you are allowed to modify it under the license. You just need to make sure that, like, the modifications that you're doing are, like, like, EULA compliant, because I haven't read it. Don't take me as a legal authority. But, like, you can modify the fucking engine. They let you download the source code. You can make extensions and do, like, whatever you need to. And that's engine development, right? Like, that's not, like, a huge, like, cost or whatever. So, like, by sitting here and arguing that specific point completely nullifies everything else, because it's like, no, that's not the point. Yeah, because a lot of people who make games are not, like, shader developers, lighting artists, and, like, all these other things, right? It is completely understandable that, like, somebody, like, this is where I feel like this guy, Radical Cap, is being way too consumeristic, because the entire issue here is that, to me, it feels like they're missing the point of, like, art. Right? Like, it feels like they can't accept that, like, a game like a game in itself can be art, right? Like, there's more to a game than frickin' art style. Like, have you considered the message, the writing, the characters, the story, the mechanics and plot ideas that are being explored through the mechanics, right? Like, it's one of those things where, like, okay, like an example is if we look at, like, COD, World at War, that word in Subway, right? Like, as an example, if we go to here, I don't want to say that word out loud, because from what I'm aware, that's a YouTube no word. But let's see, surrendering. If we go to here, yeah, so this is what I was thinking of. Whoops, let's get out of Reddit. But so, like, right here, there's this very, there's a scene where there's these guys, standing at the top of the subway with, like, Molotovs, right? And, like, like, I wasn't a fan of how COD World at War looked. To be fair, there's technical limitations at the time. But there was, like, stuff where, like, if you stood here, maybe I did something by, like, accident, but, like, these guys would just fucking firebomb these guys at some point, right? Like if you just stood there and observed, it would show you that the brutality that, like, the Russian army had at times, right? It wasn't something that needed to be explored with fucking Fortnite graphics or whatever, right? Like, the graphics were not directly relevant, So, like, I don't like the arguments so far, because they feel like they're... It feels like they're nitpicking parts of, like, a larger system without, like, considering the larger system, right? Oh my god, what's happening? These raspberries are killing me. But yeah, like again, it's just it is an argument to me that is, like, focusing hyper specifically on, like, that minuscule point without actually taking into the larger picture, right? So let's just go. Or maybe they're spending more time, again, working on the game, the mechanics, like the story, and everything else that comes with a game instead of shaders. Because guess what? There is this bad trend online right now where a lot of people do consider anything that isn't realistic good, right? So with that being the case, maybe there's this issue which, like, is largely perpetuated by like people that, like, realistic is good. So if Unreal Engine provides a good enough realistic like look out of the box, why should an indie developer who is concerned about making it, or a large studio who's trying to maximize profits, worry about a style? It makes it like it is completely ignoring the economy that is like game development right now. Yes, thank you. But earlier, you did also argue that, like, Unreal is limiting developers, and they're making the games all feel the same. So is it the engine or is it the developers? Because you're kind of jumping back and forth across the fence right now, and, like, this honestly isn't, like, convincing me of anything. It's just more making me frustrated, if anything. Mm-hmm. Shut your fucking mouth, my dude. Like, I am sorry, Mr. fucking... Okay, I'm sorry. I'm gonna get a little bashy here for a second. I'm gonna go on the offensive and get a bit aggro. I'm sorry, fucking person who makes effectively video essays that are generic clickbait slop from what I can see. And I see they're also right-leaning. That is awesome. Anyways, ignoring that, because I never looked into any of this, you are critiquing somebody who, okay, for context, John Carmack. Let's give like a micro history lesson, right? Frickin' John Carmack. I don't know how to spell his name. Carmack, this guy. So this guy, John Carmack, is an American computer programmer and game developer. He co-founded the video game company id Software and was the lead programmer of 1990s games Commander Keen, Wolfenstein 3D, Doom, Quake, and their sequels. He also worked at NASA. The NASA, like North American Space Agency, NASA, right? And you want to know something funny? This guy, who is like widely regarded to be like a fucking like wizard of programming, said that game development is harder than working at NASA. So to be an absolute prick, what you are missing the picture of here, which is what is pissing me off so much about your argument that you just made, is that, as I mentioned earlier, with Unreal lowering the bar to game development, making it so that game development is more accessible to people who have less technical skills, there is going to be people who are worse at making games that become successful from making games, right? There is going to be that technical bridge that is going to be gapped. And the issue is that by you doing this, you are one of those fucking people who are on Twitter or whatever, who will look at somebody who made an indie game and mock it for not looking like fucking COD or some fucking amazing game. And to have the fucking audacity to say something so fucking stupid as somebody who managed to go through the grueling process of not being able to give a shit enough about like game development to like dick with a visual style is so fucking stupid and up your own fucking head ass that it makes me want to fucking slap you. I won't, because I'm trying to be civil, but it is such a fucking like PC gamer fucking like, you know, fucking, you know, jerk off in the mirror fucking take that is just fucking stupid. Like, I don't know this guy. I don't know what he does. I don't want to make any personal insults, right? I mean, like, I know that was kind of personal insults. I was more making the arguments towards the fucking ideas that he was presenting, not the person here. But it is legitimately one of those things where, how do I put it? This isn't like a quote I'm trying to pull up. I'm just trying to think of how to word it. So I guess I'll put it this way, right? Those who criticize but do not make cannot criticize, right? Those who criticize and do not make are not valid, right? And like, again, I don't know this guy, but like, if we go back to their YouTube channel, because I'm going to be salty for 5 minutes, is there any link to socials? Just a YouTube. Okay. Is there anything in the description? Also, no. So, what this guy has done is he managed to shit out a fucking video, which could take a couple days, right? Versus somebody who went through the effort of doing something that is potentially harder than working at NASA, depending on the skill level, right? And like, not just that, but it's also like, it is just such an urchin thing to say, to just be like, oh, well, you clearly don't care about your craft because I don't like the direction it took. Like, fucking shut up. Sorry, I forgot to say this as well. But, like, there's multiple steps to learning, right? You can only really learn one thing at a time, right? Like, you can learn things in parallel, where you switch back and forth between one and the other, and there's kind of some overlap in certain places, right? But, like, maybe somebody just is not inherently an artist, right? And, like, when I say artist, I mean visual artist in this context, right? Where maybe they just don't fucking know, like, what makes something look good, right? Like, somebody can own that. And if they don't know what that is, and they want to work on the game development skill first, and they want to improve that first, that is their choice, their right, and something they're allowed to do, which should not be criticized, because they're trying to learn and improve and get better. And then now this person is instantly flopping over to the other side, which is, again, no, on a commercial scale, they don't care about fucking artistic integrity, they just want style. But that is something that has existed for fucking ever. So if that's the case, you should like complain to these large companies who have not given a single fuck about like artistic liberty or artistic fucking choice since like the first game they ever made. So, two other issues with this, because this is just another thing that's just frustrating to me. So, first off, stylization is easier. It is not actually fucking easier to be realistic. Because with stylization, it's like a lot of shader tuning and then it's done. And then you can take a lot of artistic liberties. Like, here, 1 second. Let me turn off the screen share for 2 seconds because I gotta find this. I just don't want to leak any, like, private files or anything. But so if I go to here, I go to frickin' assets. I go to my 3D, not 3D models. I want to go to my textures. There we are. Let me find a texture that I enjoy. So let's go for one that I made ideally. Don't have my textures in here. If I don't, that'd be interesting. Okay, I see I have to go to my projects folder, so give me just a second to pull up 09. Cockatiel trying to find the thing. I think this is it. Okay, here we go. I think I found the texture folder that I was looking for. Is it in here? No, that's my frickin' library. Nope, that's just my script files. Non-code assets. Oh, I'm in the wrong folder. I'm fucking stupid. I went to the wrong folder. My apologies. Okay, trying to find it. Trying to find it. Because I'm cool. You know what? I think this is going to be good. Yeah, okay, so here. So, like, just this will be good enough for the visual representation. Get ready for a visual flashbang. Bam! This is a texture that I made for a 3D, like a stylized 3D scene. I'm not going to show the scene because it was like a commission. And, like, you know, whatever. Didn't get, like, permission to post it yet. So, like, I don't want to, like, leak anything. But, like, gay ass voice trying to find yeah, exactly. But no, like, this is a texture that, like, I made for, like, one of my game, like not my games, but like a 3D scene that I made, right? Like, stylized textures aren't that hard to make. It's like the main reason why you go for realistic is because you then get to sit there as a company and advertise, oh, we got the latest gen graphics and fucking blah, 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 right? And then the second thing is that on top of advertising latest gen graphics while being able to, like, nitpick little things, you also get to, like, sort of what do you call it? You get to like homogenize your, like, work experience, right? So, for instance, with something like, let's take something like Borderlands, right? I like how the first thing that comes up is the fucking movie now. Fucking cancer. Anyways, Borderlands, sure, we'll go like this. And then, by another example, we'll look up, like, Super Mario Odyssey. I think that's how you spell it. I don't know, actually. Odyssey. There we are. Super Mario Odyssey. So, like, if you're a company who's trying to scale and you don't want to keep reinvesting in assets, right? You can't use fucking assets from Borderlands in fucking Odyssey or vice versa, right? So if you're a company like Activision, Treyarch, Sledgehammer, who are trying to pump out games every, 3 years, right? It makes no fucking sense to, like, make different styles, because you make different styles, you can't reuse those assets, right? And to be fair, game over game, a lot of the assets are new, so there is less of an argument there. But there's a lot of cases where game studios do reuse assets. So you actually, like, quite literally cannot, like, diversify assets that often if you're trying to make games that scale far. So if you do want to make games that scale far, you're going to eventually end up doing this thing where, long story short, it effectively turns into, okay, yeah, we can stylize it, but then, like, to make sure this is, like, economical, we have to make sure that, like, the next however many games are in this style before we reset or move to something new. And, like, again, if you're in a world where, like, basically, unless you're Nintendo, everybody's gonna bitch about fucking, like, it not being realistic if it's something like Call of Duty. So, like, at that point, for a lot of people, it is genuinely, like, why bother, right? Like, and that isn't me trying to be salty. It is just legitimately, like, I don't think a lot of developers would want to bother if that's like their state, right? Whatever, rolling forward. Oh yeah, because, like, anytime. Okay, somewhat off topic. I just got here, but damn, I have not heard about Mario Odyssey for years. Yeah, it was actually kind of funny. I have a Switch, and I was actually kind of considering playing it on a stream one of these days in the near future. But I don't know. It's all fun. Anyways, carrying on is so, like, just throwing it on without knowing how shit works. Okay, fucking buddy, do you know how a pencil is made? Right? Recently got to Bowser with all my cousins playing Odyssey. Lol, hell yeah. But, like, carrying on with, like, this. You use a fucking... I'm gonna turn my mouse off so I don't do this. You use a fucking clicky boy mouse. You use fucking, Angry Nerd keyboard. Do you know how those things fucking work? Because by that fucking logic, you shouldn't just plug it in and work. You should go fucking make a keyboard. Go make a mouse. Like, your argument inherently does not make fucking, like, a ton of sense. Essentially, realism is more performance taxing because styles of granular... sorry, let me reread that because dyslexia. Essentially, realism is more performance taxing than most styles because of granular accuracies needed to be accomplished. Exactly. Not to mention the multiple elements that are not even present in today's rendering equation for realism. Yeah, and like that's the thing too. Is like. You forgot my stream was so far fucking behind, Lamau. It's all good. It is a lot of me rambling. But, like, yeah, no, exactly. Like it is more work to make it realistic, right? Again, the main reason why everything is realistic right now is because of the aforementioned fucking, like, consumer demand, right? If you go onto a platform like fucking Facebook or Twitter and you search up like gaming, I don't want to go there because like my fucking Twitter is flooded with porn. Like it's porn and right-wing politics and then like gaming or like journalism. I don't know why that's what it is, but it is. There's a little bit of tech Twitter sprinkled in there. Anyways, carrying on is so like if you go onto Twitter, you will commonly see people complain about like fucking like graphics. Like here, so fucking like what is the game? Oh, I unplugged my keyboard for the clickies earlier. Ha 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 ha. Let me plug it back in and then do this because fucking holy shit. Horizon New Dawn. Right? So this game, right? So I would say for a game, that's obviously not a screenshot, but like I would say this for a game, like obviously that's a little corner screenshot, but I would say that looks like a pretty fucking good game, assuming that's an in-game screenshot, right? Let's look up an in-game screenshot. Horizon New Dawn in-game screenshot. Yeah, like, I'm sorry, realistic or stylized, this game just looks fucking fantastic. You love the game? I've honestly never played it. But here's where I'm going with this, right? Again, this game, I have not played it. I think it looks pretty fucking neato, right? Haven't beat it yet, but you love it? Awesome. I'm glad you enjoy it. If you look up woman controversy, there is many complaints about people who think that, like, I don't know what these things say. Is it me or Sony making their lead female protagonists look masculine as hell? Barely no curves, no feminine features, unlike the average woman. You will see arguments from people who don't know what the fuck grass is, right? And this is kind of what I mean. And there was people who legitimately were arguing that, like, they should make the Horizon New Dawn character look like this. They think they need to look like fucking Lord of the Rings. There are legitimately fucking idiots who think that women all look like fucking Lord of the Rings elves. What the fuck? Yeah, that's the proper response. You are somebody who knows what grass is. Congratulations, my doob. Because, like, legitimately, there were people who were, like, zooming in on her fucking face and, like, okay, so I don't know what the technical term for the stuff is called, right? But so there's like Horizon New Dawn face hair. There was people who are fucking complaining about fucking whoever the main chicks is having fucking based off the hilarious point that the characters need to be attractive in general. Yeah, exactly. And then so there was legitimately people who are criticizing fucking the main character having this peach fuzz on their face. And there was like a bunch of shit of people genuinely thinking like, holy shit, she's trans or something. And it's like, trans or not, I don't give a fuck. People have fucking hair on their face. Like, that is just a thing that happens. We come from Mungie. We are covered in fucking hair, right? Like, that's what fucking humans are. So, like, to sit there and be so fucking brain dead that you don't understand. Yeah, here. Like people were legitimately saying that, like, they should look like this. Like, fucking, like, teenage girl, fucking holy shit. Like, it is one of those things where, like, oh, is this a tweet? Can you explain to me why the hell Aloy has a beard? Yeah, this shit. Maybe cause like humans come from Mungie. And Mungie, you know what? Here, chimpanzee face. I wonder where it comes from. Like, it's so fucking stupid because it's just one of those arguments, right? Where like, Mungie, exactly. But like, legitimately, like it is such a brain dead argument. And like people who were like doing it were like so brain dead. Like, here, let's look up New Dawn redesign. I might have to search like alloy redesign. Yeah, yeah, so you can see there, like people are making it seem like they were some fucking like, again, like fucking goddess to fucking like, more realistic woman, if we're being honest. People on Twitter love complaining. Exactly. That's the kind of disconnect between biologically supposed to have a beard, but socially supposed to shave it. Exactly. But like, that's what like I mean, right? It's like you have very clearly never actually interacted with a woman. I'm not even talking about in like a relationship stance. I mean, you have very clearly never interacted with a woman who is not trying to present herself, because you probably have only witnessed a whammon in the instance of they're doing an E3 presentation or some shit. Like, actually, I want to see like if like there's like the redesign fucking memes, because there was a fucking point where like people were like fucking like shitting on them. With like, what was it? Alloy, womanized, design. I'm gonna see if this comes up with something, because if not, then like, I'm not gonna dig too further. Yeah, that's obviously AI, but like, long story short, what I saw was like legitimately people being like, oh look, this is my redesign of Alloy. And it's like making them the most like generic fucking like wham shape. Right? It was so bad. Me who talks to many women, I am a man. Yes. But like this is the thing though, is that okay, micro politic rant, I apologize. But like, this is one thing that is so fucking like confusing to me with like people who complain about like the LGTB shit, right? Where it's like, oh, I hate trans people and whatever. It's like, you realize that, like, some dudes just have more narrow... here. Sorry, I caught this out of the corner of my eye. Alloy with a female face. Are you fucking serious? Are you serious? like, to be completely real, if you were somebody who is making posts like this, like, genuinely, and I mean this genuinely... Please go outside. Turn off big computer, turn off small computer, sit down, go outside, take a breath, go to like a coffee shop. Just take a walk. No phone, no podcast, no music, right? Just take your little brick device, walk down the street, fucking go to Starbucks. Go to your nearest Starbucks. Who cares if it's like 20 kilometers away? Just go for a fucking walk. Make this your day, right? Enjoy yourself. And just observe whammon. Observe people. You will notice that there is some fucking feminine-ass guys. You will notice that there are some masculine-ass girls. Female face, my brother, all things you deem holy damn. Sorry, my brother, in all things you deem holy goddamn. That post pisses me off more than it should. No, it pisses you off just the right amount, because you are... Oh, hey, look at that. OBS ran out of space. Guess we're doing the archive version. Anyways, but no, Turtle, you're reasonable, because you're seeing somebody who does not have fucking logic, right? This is somebody who, like, was an iPad kid, right? Like, they were an iPad kid... And all they played was fucking Subway Surfers. And then they fucking, like, are suddenly an adult. And then they need to start adulting. And then they make a Twitter account. And then this is what they go towards. Right? Like, this is the issue with, like, so many fucking people. So, like, this is why you kind of can't listen to consumers. Right? And this is why people who do listen to consumers often go off track. Because there are people who will make shit like this. Right? And this is so fucking stupid.
because like you know, like I can like actually no, I was actually just about to say because for context, I'm looking to my left a lot, which is where like my chat is, and I've been like talking to like all of you, like Turtle, fucking Ari, Ventra, Freezik, like all of you, right? Like I've been talking to you, which doesn't make much sense because my camera's like right here. So like I should probably talk forward, but fuck it, I'm talking to chat. I was going to say because to me I'm looking at like the fucking icon in like a little like fucking like 64 pixel square, like a desktop icon, right? And I'm like, yeah, maybe they're more attractive. And then I look back and I'm like, no, the one on the right looks like they've had so much facial surgery done that they're starting to look uncanny. Like holy shit, Like, maybe we don't need every fucking character to look like fucking, like, supermodel or whatever, right? Because, like, it's almost like supermodel standards are some made-up bullshit. The right image just doesn't look natural at all? No, exactly. So, like, here's like, another, like, micro rant extended to that, right? Because I'm going to extend further, right? Shrek 5 redesign. I cast plastic surgery looking ass. I did not go into here, but okay, I'll take it. Shrek 5 redesign. Let's try this again. Let's try that again. So, the Shrek 5 redesign. Again, I promise this has a point. This is something that has like trended, but like I like promise you I had this thought before it became popular. So the issue with the redesign of Shrek is that like so as somebody who does art stuff, right? Like I can do more realistic stuff, but I gravitate a lot more towards like cartoony stuff because it's just fun, right? I draw for the fun. But so with the Shrek redesign here, there we are. So with the Shrek redesign here, a lot of people were complaining about this. To be honest, I'm sort of okay with the Shrek redesign. Maybe it's less of a classic, but it's 100% can appeal to more young people. Yes, exactly. There is many things to complain about with the Shrek redesign, but most people are actually missing what the complaints are, right? And what those complaints are is that most people look at Shrek 5 and they're like, oh, it's disgusting, it's gross, it's gross. No, I'm sorry, the Shrek on the left looks bad, right? It looked fucking amazing for its time, to be very clear, and I still think it looks good. And I don't think most people will complain. But the Shrek on the left, graphically, like to my eye, which has more artistic training, because guess what? I have a fucking certificate in web and graphic design. I was kind of into the whole art thing, right? The one on the left has multiple color and shading flaws. There is legitimately flaws with the lighting and how like stuff like the skin should work. I'm not going to go super into it, but sort of the thing is that I'll make a TLDR is so there's this thing called subsurface scattering, right? Subsurface scattering is kind of what it sounds like when you break it down. What it is the whole flashlight phenomenon where like if you hold like your thumb up against like your phone's flashlight, you'll see like the glow through like this, right? This is what subsurface scattering is. And if you look at artists who draw really good like paintings here, I might have one of my Twitter bookmarks because I like to get references, but again, it's Twitter, so I'm not going to dare fucking stream my entire screen with fucking Twitter. Okay, just want to make sure, extra sure it wasn't fucking visible because holy shit, Twitter is a fucking landmine because it'll be like normal, holy shit. But so, yeah, you know what? Fuck it. This post. We're going with this post. Let me navigate to this post. So this post right here, right? This is one that I bookmarked because I just thought it was a really nice photo, right? You will notice this artist actually pays attention to subsurface scattering because here you can see the backsplash of light. There's this little bit of red banding right here, which is the subsurface scattering, and then it transitions to shadow. So this artist right here has done a better lighting job than fucking Shrek 1 did with like the whole CGI and everything else, right? And like there's like multiple things, but that is like an objective, realistic quality to lighting. And Shrek being a more realistic style should have that. And I personally view it as a flaw that it does not. So to carry on, if we look at the newer Shrek, it's kind of hard to tell, but you can see a little bit of like that red kind of in here, a little bit of it here, a little bit of it like kind of like right through here, which is like, it's not perfect, but like it makes sense that it's there. And now to carry on with this, and where I'm going with this, is that the new Shrek is fine, but the issue is actually the portions of the face. Because there's multiple issues with the new Shrek that do not make it actually Shrek. And I'm going to steal somebody else's work here for a second, because you'll see here somebody actually did a redesign where the left is the redesign and the right is the original. And the left looks like Shrek now. Because like as the creatures that we are so fundamentally wired into faces. Like the hardest thing to draw as an artist is a female, like an attractive stereotypical female face, because the precision and portions and everything like that have to be so accurate that like it is one of the most difficult things to consistently draw. Whereas on the opposite end, the easiest thing to draw as a person is something like a tree. Right? And you will notice a lot of people complained a lot less about Donkey, and one of the reasons why is because Donkey is a much less traditional face. They're a fucking furry, right? So with something like Donkey, who is a furry, there's going to be a lot less of those things to let that like people are going to latch onto and point out. I have many similar complaints to Donkey, so what I'm about to say with Shrek completely applies to Donkey, to be very, very clear. But where I'm going with this is that you'll see that the face on the left now actually looks like Shrek. Because as like the most obvious example is that, you know, the eye gap is a bit wider, the head is a bit more rounded. Like it's less like the one on the right is more egg shape, or the one on the left is more kind of like a rounded boxy shape. Like it's hard to describe. I don't know the technical term for it. I apologize. But like the overall issue is nothing to do with the rendering, right? And like to be very, very clear, there is issues that I have with the rendering. I think it's a bit like over contrasty. I think he looks like a fucking pear, right? And like other things like that. But those are personal issues that I don't like, and if I was the one directing, I would change. That doesn't mean I hate it. It's just something that like I look at, I'm like, I wouldn't have done that, but whatever, right? What I consider to be a flaw here, and I mean like an objective flaw, is that again, the face of the original, ignoring the ugly Sonic, the face of the original is just not the face of Shrek. Those are two different ogres, right? What if we jump back to the redesign that like, you know, the other person did? That's Shrek. Like that's what the difference is. So I completely forget how we went so far off on this rant, but like carrying on, I guess. So to actually add on to there, my pupper is going heckin' nuts in his sleep. That's what puppy noises. That's puppy noises. Oh my gosh, what the heck's going on with the pupper? What the heck's going on with the pupper? Here, one second. I'm gonna pull a pupper cam. Oh, did he stop? Is he stopping? Is he stopping? Is the pupper hushing up? Oh, he stopped. Oh, I was about to show pupper cam. Oh, he must have had a good heckin' sleep. I took him for a walk today. And he had a big walk yesterday, so he's probably tuckered out. Oh, what a precious little baby man. I love you. Anyways, but so to carry on with what I was saying too, is so like this is like partly the issue, right? Is that like, you know, full cycling once again, people are demanding game now. They're not willing to pay higher prices. So like the issue is that like developers are kind of being forced to like pump out games at like a worse cost, right? Also, why does he have fried wings for bangs? I don't know. I mean, hey, I'll put it this way. Proudly showing off a Razor sticker and a fucking Glorious Mouse sticker. Not the move I would have done, but like, sure. Let's go with that. Yeah, you're right. And Terraria Hermes boots hair. Hell yeah. But like with what he just said, yeah. And like to be fair, I understand they're largely talking about like larger studios here, but like yeah, maybe this is why when we see indie games, we should not lean into them like they're AAA games, right? And when we see said indie games, maybe it would be a good idea if we try to give them some slack and encourage them to keep doing what they did. Because if we all be critical assholes, then like people are just not going to want to learn. Because this is like another little micro rant, so I apologize. But people often dismiss skill as talent. And I was actually listening to an episode of Distractable earlier by, Markiplier, MySkirm, and Lord Meaning 77. And this is something that I consistently hear, which frustrates me. And I heard this once, and I think like a book or something. I don't recall what it was. I think it was a book. I think it was, what was it? It was something like, oh shoot, it's in my Amazon library. Sorry, I gotta find this because if I don't know the book title, it's going to bother me so much. It was something like it was like a book on like effectively stubbornness. Grit. It was something grit. One second. It was it was like one of the first books I remember reading. Oh wait, it's literally just called Grit by Angelina Duckworth. I believe that's where I heard this from. But what the idea is that talent is such a toxic term. Calm down, fucking Twitter, Reddit, whatever. Like, I'm making a point here. But it is a self-defeating term, right? Because when somebody says, "Oh, they're so talented," what they're doing is they're removing themselves from comparison, right? Like, as an example, I'm gonna fucking pick on Ari here because, Ari, you are my target. I am bullying you specifically right now. Ha ha ha, get fucked. But so something like Ari is a better developer than me. They're better at math than me. I am not going to fucking pretend that like I'm better, right? There might be some aspect of like weird fucking mathematics that I've played with that like I'm for some reason better at, but I would imagine Ari would manage to figure that out in seconds and very quickly surpass me on that. Same thing with coding. They're currently at a level where their like understanding of like fundamental primitives are just better than mine, right? If I look at Ari and I blindly say, "Oh, they're such a talented developer," I am indirectly telling myself I cannot meet their level, right? Like, oh, I shouldn't compare myself to Ari because they're so talented, right? I don't have that talent that they do, right? And that's what I mean by like talent being like such like a self-defeatist term. It's like a cancerous term, right? Because it leads to such a pessimistic mindset. Like it is one of those things where by me blindly just going, "Oh, I was a talented developer, blah blah blah," like I shouldn't try. That is most likely. I mean, I could be completely wrong because there's definitely instances where talent does come in. But like in the regards of like with somebody like Ari, I am sure there has been many hours of them just fucking grinding on a keyboard, right? I'm sure there's been many hours of them just fucking going absolutely fucking like slamming their head against the wall trying to figure certain shit out. I'm sure there's been many hours of them being fucking like, so deep into man pages that they can't even think straight without thinking Vulcan. In a way, distance yourself from something that actually is achievable, eventually reaching their skill level. Yeah, exactly. Cause again, as I've already said, you're definitely a better developer than me. I'm not gonna fucking sit here and be like, "Oh, I can compete with you." I can't. You are going to kick my ass. Even if it was like I had an AI assist tool like Copilot, whatever, and you didn't, you would still probably kick my ass because I might fucking go out of the fucking start pretend we're like a stoplight, like 3, 2, 1, go. We're both gonna hit the gas pedal, and I might shoot off way faster. But what's gonna happen is I don't know how to control this fucking car. I'm gonna start fucking fishtailing. I'm gonna slam into a fucking pole or something, right? Like I am not going to do good by comparison, right? Now, that being said, I'm still going to try, and I hope to one day be at your level and surpass your level and blah, 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 blah. But, like, that's, like, personal motivation, right? And that's just the grit that I need to have to push through it, right? So, like, that's my micro rant about, like, you know, talent, the word talent. And, like, that being said, at the same time, I'm not trying to deny that, like, talent exists, but, like, talent is, like, you know, a head start, right? It is a way to take a few early steps. You know, it's like cheating a base in baseball. Sure, you can cheat one base. You can't cheat a fucking home run, right? Like, that's just how it is. Yeah. Oh, keep playing, please. There. Why are you zoomed out? All right, we're at 650. I'm gonna reload that because I don't know what's happening with the subtitles there. Hello, thank you for resetting again, YouTube. Appreciate you. We're gonna go to like 640s for a little bit of a rewind. Oh wait, well I guess the subtitles are broken. Whoops, hello. Okay, that's my chat. There we are. Yeah, and guess what? Fucking, I'm gonna not say that. I was gonna say something not nice, but like, guess what? So are developers, right? There's a lot of game development that fucking sucks. There's a lot of fucking bug hunting. There's a lot of fucking like issue tracking. There's a lot of like all these things that like need to happen. There are, guess what? A lot of programmers who just do their 9 to 5, right? So like, you know, it's I hate this fucking one-way argument of like, oh, I'm just a guy who's trying to fucking pay my bills. It's like, yeah, guess what fucking programmers are trying to do, my dude? Like, it doesn't fucking track, right? Because like, again, I'm not trying to be like overly salty or anything, but it's like, I think more than anything for me, what it does is it just shows like a lack of like two-step thinking, right? Because you have step 1, it's like, ooh, game bad because they don't care. When step 2 is that, oh, game bad because they probably have a manager breathing down their throat to have this shipped yesterday, right? Like, the Game Grumps made like a joke with Sonic Boom where it's like, okay, I got a picture of a hedgehog, you know, I think we're going to start working on the game. And it's like, oh, we shipped it yesterday. Like, no? Like, there's a lot to it outside that, right? Then why did you make the entire earlier case about arguing about Unreal being bad? Because this is where it starts to feel like a fucking ChatGPT script, because now you're flipping back, making the same, like, you're basically conceding the argument that you already had. So, like, can you please look at the camera and stop reading the fucking prompt, my dude? Yeah. I would actually argue that's one of the biggest issues, because you will see fucking, what is it? It's like Mixamo, I think it is. Yeah, this is owned by like Adobe, by the way, and you should not use it, just to be very clear. But there's things like Mixamo where like what you will see is that like you'll see like basically what this is you throw a character in that's like rigged, and then Mixamo will basically just, you know, throw on an animation, right? Like this is literally it. You'll see stuff like this, and then you'll see a lot of animations like this being used for various reasons, right? And so like I would argue assets are where your game fucking dies. Because there's literally a bad term that we already have for it, which is called a fucking asset flip, right? Like I swear to God, this guy is just reading a fucking ChatGPT script, right? Because like they were just arguing about like, okay, maybe it's not a ChatGPT script, maybe this is their thought, but if this is their thought, then like please think about your script a little bit further and try disprove your own arguments before you write something out. Because you were just complaining about how games look all the same. Do you know how much worse that is going to be if every fucking game uses the same assets? Like, are you serious? And, like, I know I also earlier argued about, like, reusing assets and shit, right? But my argument with the assets is that you already established a fucking environment for it, right? Like, if you look at, like, fucking Half-Life 2 barrel, right, as an example. A, these barrels are fucking iconic. And, like, B, no fucking shit. They're going to reuse these barrels. They're a generic asset that have been used throughout the entirety of Half-Life 2, right? It makes no fucking sense to like... Oh wait, on two asterisks, I'll say. The first asterisk is that because this is going to be such a common asset, it makes sense to, like, create it from scratch. And then fucking pillar B is that because you have made this asset for your game in your fucking, like, universe, it now makes sense within your universe to keep reusing it. Because, like, I don't know what the technical term for it is, but you're effectively Skinner boxing your fucking, like, user base, right? So, and, like, what I mean by that, right, is that if you teach a player shoot barrel explode, you have basically created the like mental connection that if somebody looks at this barrel, they put their cursor over it and they left click, barrel will go boom, right? That is like effectively as like far as you can break down that mental, like, connection, right? So the issue is that if you keep fucking changing barrels, redesigning them, moving them, whatever, and every fucking game uses a new barrel, or for some reason, because it's just right here, the blue barrel suddenly explodes, or like a barrel that isn't marked flammable suddenly explodes, you are actually doing bad design. Like, I forget what exactly it is, but it's like, this is, again, something that I learned in, like, web and graphics school, is that you want to have consistent icons for things, right? So, like, for instance, how home on almost every single application looks like a house. That is like a graphic design consistency. If you go, like, as an example with, like, the Gmail icons, there's definitely flaws with different apps, but, like, the newly designed icons, you will notice that most of them have a solid fill. There's kind of a few exceptions with Drive and Meet, but I'm going to kind of consider those asterisks that, like, I'm going to shove to the side. But you will notice that, like, their, like, design is not hollow, right? If we suddenly got a hollow icon in here, and by a hollow icon, I mean one where it's just the outline and there's zero fill. So, like, an example of that would be, it can just be called conditioning or Pavlov conditioning, yeah. But, like, you know, like, just to carry on, right, is, so if I just go like this, I go create, just as a visual example for people, right? If I have, like, icon 1, which is like this, right, I'm just going to make this transparent. There we are. If I have, like, this, we deselect that. I have then this, and then that's, you know, same thing. And then I go like this, and I go like this. There we are. Now we have Squid Games. But, like, with this is like a visual, like, identity now, right? Like, this is something that is established as like something that has its own consistency or whatever, right? Now, as an example, if I were to then make one more shape that's like this still technically works until I do this. And then the second I do this, I have now broken the visual design, right? Like, so that's like the issue here, right? Is that they're talking about reusing assets, but the issue is that if you reuse assets that everybody else is using, you're fighting the conditioning that people have built from seeing that asset before in a different context, right? Which then starts to break down the entire fucking, like, mental conditioning and spirals into this fucking, like, mental fuckscape. Like, it's like, the best way that I can actually think about it is, like, you know those doors where you try and push it and it doesn't open, right? Door handle, right? I just want to try this. Glass door, because I'm thinking about a very specific one. business. I don't know why my dyslexia was like. Okay, like this, like a door similar to this, right? If you've ever walked up to one of these and like pushed it and then it's like, oh, it's a pull door, oh, it must be stupid or something. No, you're not. Because the issue is that the door handle itself, yes, I'm going on a rant about fucking door handles, deal with it. The issue is that door handles convey different things. So as an example, like, yeah, this is an amazing fucking failure of design. Because these are not push handles, these are pull handles. If somebody like labels a fucking sticker on it like this that says push, they have broken the unspoken contract of the fucking door, right? Whereas if you have another handle that is like, I want to try to see if I can see it again because I thought I saw a good one over here. If you have another handle which is like the bar, like the horizontal bar. So like with this, right? Like I'm just gonna use a stock photo because whatever. So like, again, these little handles right here, those are the pull handles. These larger handles here, these are the push handles. The ones where you're just supposed to lean into it. If you have that as a door and you ever try to do it and then like unconsciously you do it wrong, the entire reason why is because your entire life you have been conditioned to have the doors work a certain way, and then that specific facility, business, institution, residency, whatever, has broken that contract. Like that is literally a level of design that most people don't think about, right? So like no, reusing a lot of assets, long story short, is not a good thing. I'm also sorry. I wish I could fix the subtitles, but I don't know what happened. YouTube decided to kill them. Correction, they want to save money. Most people would like to put fucking effort in, but again, the issue is that most people are doing 9 to 5. I would implore you to look at like 95% of people doing a 9 to 5 who are eager to put in the extra 10%. Fix them. Alright, sorry. I'm gonna rerun a little bit because I missed a little bit of their argument. I apologize. Okay, dude, I'm fucking sorry. You literally just said earlier that, like, the Frostbite engine is, like, inadequate or something. Sorry, so what's the timestamp at? We're at 8:21. Sorry, I gotta find this. Because this is going to fucking upset me. Where was it? I remember, like, the whole galaxy swirl thing. There we are. Sorry. Hold on. Okay, sorry. I did misunderstand that point. My apologies. But like a third-person game is literally just pulling the camera back. Which to me, so like, you know, again, ignoring my misremembering of his previous comment. But like it is literally just pulling the camera back, which shows me that this guy actually has no game dev experience. Like, literally, if you're to take this model, grab the camera, and just pull it back, like, you can pull it through walls, you can pull it through the character's head, like, that's a thing you can do, because this is code, this isn't real life, you know, you can take the little eyeballs and just pull them backwards. That's now a third-person game. It doesn't fucking matter. If a game is bad for third person, then that's just because the coder's fucked up, or the developers, or the game designer, or whatever, right? Somebody fucked up. that gotta have extra insinuation, like open world games for RPGs or something? I would hope so, but again, this guy's arguments have been both inconsistent and have been not very thought out. He's directly like argued against himself a few times, which I can see being like, oh, I'm trying to concede the argument and argue on your side or whatever, right? Like playing both sides of the fence. But like, they didn't acknowledge they didn't acknowledge that is what they were doing, right? So that instantly makes me have an issue, because now I'm sitting here like, well, you're saying that, but like, is that actually like is this your argument? Are you conceding the argument? Are you just trying to make it so that I feel heard, right? There's a bunch of issues there, right? And then issue B, issue elemental P, is that he like, this is either one of two things, and I apologize, but it is either one of three things. It is either an essay written from an extremely inexperienced point of view, right? Or naive would be the word. An extremely naive point of view. It is written from a like AI perspective, where it's just go with the script and whatever. Maybe a video talking about why Unreal Engine 5 is bad and blah. Or then the third thing is that this script is like, I'm trying to think of the word for it. I guess the most extreme word for it would be something along the lines of like, what would it be? Like it is like, it is like almost like intentionally trying to be bad. You know what I'm saying? Like God, the word's escaping me, but it's like, it's like the opposite of like good intentions, where it's like, God, these words are just escaping me right now because brain dead. But like, it is on the level of just saying that like, okay, like this is just like written by somebody who is like almost intentionally trying to make this raid based malicious. Yeah, it is basically maliciously written, right? Those are the three ways that I see it. So to recap, naive / amateur, AI, or malicious, because this just doesn't feel like it's adding up. Okay, rewinding again, you said that like Frostbite was bad at fucking third-person games and RPGs, and then now you just conceded that it's an issue with the developers. So what's your fucking point here? Is it that Frostbite is bad for RPG / third-person games, or is it that Frostbite is just bad in the bad hand, like terrible in the wrong hands? Like, which is the argument here, right? Like this is why I'm leaning AI. Like, how long ago was this written? 2 weeks ago. Yep, that makes sense. So here's actually a fun little side thing. I wanna see if I can credit the source for this. Let's see, book about comics. I think this is Understanding Comics by this dude. So there was this is the book cover that I remember seeing, but when I read the book again, the internals weren't what matched. So I think there's multiple like iterations on this, right? But basically, what it basically said is, understanding comics abstraction. Yeah. So here they basically talk about, this was a book that I read all the way back in like middle school or something, right? But here they basically talk about how, depending on circumstance, a person can effectively relate more or less to something, a character, whatever, using more or less realistic graphics, right? So under this instance that they're like referring to, I believe the one on the left is the author of the book, and the one on the right is like the most abstract face that they can make, right? But this does seem to be the book. So I don't know, maybe fucking the covers got ripped off and put on a new book. I don't know what happened. Anyways, carrying on. But so they actually talk about how, yeah. So yeah, here. But when you enter the cartoon world, you see yourself. Thus, when you're looking at a photo or realistic drawing of a face, you see it as the face of another, but when you enter a cartoon world, you see yourself. So this is obviously like a very extreme abstraction, right? But that's where the gradient happens. So, you know, to pull up something like, I'm gonna go like nuclear family here and say like Flintstones, right? Fred Flintstone, right? He would be like the most easy guy for like generic nuclear family dad to project himself onto, right? Because like, yeah, that's very clearly, you know, like middle-aged male who, you know, exists and does things, and they are extremely identifiable, right? But they're also abstract to the point that like, you know, like you'll see the character do something like, oh yeah, they're like me. Like that is something that happens, right? And you actually see this a lot where it's like with Hell of a Boss. That's right, I'm making a connection between the Flintstones and Hell of a Boss. Bite me. But so there was an issue where, so for those of you who are unaware, as the show title implies, the show is set in hell, right? And I'm not a huge fan of the show, to be very clear, but this is a criticism that I saw, which I thought was fucking brain dead. They were complaining about how all the characters in Hell of a Boss are bad people. And it's like, they're in fucking hell. Like, hell in like a religious sense is where the bad people go. And they acknowledged in this show that a heaven exists. So if they acknowledge a heaven exists and that this is hell, like hell as like, you know, most people think of it, of course the characters are going to be fucking bad characters, right? And then so what one of these sort of issues is that because of that abstract property that cartoons inherently have, like, I'm going to assume it's a younger audience. It might be older, but people in like there was a group of people who were upset because they saw bad characters doing good things and then bad things, right? And then in that happening, they were upset. And I believe one of the reasons why was because they might project themselves onto a character, whether it's, you know, Millie, Moxie, or the guy in the middle. I forget their name in the middle. I know they're played by fucking that one dude who does all the skits. God, I know his name. I introduced so many people to him before the show, and now I can't remember his name. It's like the opposite of you know, when somebody blows up, you learn their name. I do the opposite. When they blow up, I forget it. Anyways, but so yeah, I believe the reason why that happens is because they might fucking like people probably identify with a character, whether it's Stolas, fucking Moxie, Millie, Luna, whoever, and then when that character does something bad, they then no longer identify with that character, and that hurts them, thus making them upset. The problem has been there for a long time, especially in Dune, because the gray morality in most characters makes it hard to connect with a particular character or clan. Yeah, exactly. And like that, like it can be a weakness and a strength, right? Because like how do I put this? So like my background comes a lot more from like an artistic background. So like, you know, like programming for like me, Ari, for context was very much a secondary thing. This is a pivot that I've been doing because, you know, various reasons. But like, so I've thought a lot about this stuff, right? And so like it's like when I watch a show now, I no longer watch a show thinking like I like this character. I'm a total Millie or whatever, right? I watch it and my brain because I have like thought so much about this stuff has switched like effectively permanently to now I'm looking at characters and I'm trying to think of their intent and like what they're trying to do. Also, I've seen the opposite, like how Nazis use the Lord of the Rings to paint themselves as the good guys, so sometimes the grayness has usefulness while not diluting the real message of the story. Yeah. Definitely. And, like, I guess I'll go back, I'll go back to finishing what I was saying, and then I'll jump on that, because, yeah. Where was I going with this? Yeah, so for me now, because I've had that brain switch in my head, I'm basically never upset now when I see a character do something. The only time I'm ever upset when something like that happens is when I'm playing a game where it's implied that you are controlling the character and like you make decisions on behalf of that character, and then partway through that story, that control is taken away. That is an example where I don't like the creative direction, and I think that was a fumble, right? Because they wanted this specific ending, right? I think that is where it is a big mess up, flub up, whatever, right? Whereas I think something like now with me being more, I don't know, I guess empathetic towards the characters, I can't think of another way to put it, has changed that. Okay, now jumping back to what Ari said, I'm gonna reread it to refresh myself, and I've seen the opposite, like how Nazis use the Lord of the Rings books to paint themselves as the good guys, so sometimes the greatness has usefulness to not dilute the real message of the story. Yeah, and like that's actually, so I'm gonna pull the most basic bitch example just because like I think it'll work, which is that I think like as an example, like the Thanos argument is like a somewhat dumb argument, but I think it like at least helps a lot. And Thanos was honestly a character for me that has largely contextualized villains as they should always be empathetic to some degree, right? A thing that lives in my head kind of rent free now is kidnaps scientists. This is a headline of that I've seen a few times, where it's like Florida man kidnaps scientists to make his dog immortals. I'm curious what this one says. It's not always about the money, Spider-Man. Yes, very good. But like with this post, right? Like real or fake, whatever it is, I think this is actually a surprisingly good like villain arc in like a sentence. Right? Because like what it does is it shows that somebody can do something immoral, or unethical, whatever the proper term is. I always forget the difference, but somebody can do something immoral that is justified, right? Yeah, it's almost never a good idea to have a villain that's just mindless evil. Yeah. And now that being said too, there's definitely instances that like you can do that, but what's also very funny is that sort of post Thanos, there has been this very persistent line of like, if a character's acting bad, it's because of like purple alien goo monster that's controlling their brain, you know? Like it's almost never because of like just the character being wicked, which I do genuinely think is a much better thing. But I also really wish that most of the stories that are written would push past like one note. Right? Like in my opinion, they really need a lot more depth than just, oh, teehee, this character, you know, disagrees with this one thing. Like they want to stop this one thing because people will die or something, and you know, the sacrifice of the few now saves the many more later. Like that stuff. Like that's a very basic done argument, but like you get the idea, right? So yeah, I don't know. Like So going full circle back to this is again, I'm really struggling with this video because I feel ultimately like this video is just kind of struggling to form any solid opinion or identity. They're conceding a lot of points, they're making a lot of points, and it's just like, oof. Like Ari, like you said earlier, we're like, oh, it has to be with like Big Worlds or something. Well, like, no, they brought up how Frostbite is good for fucking, what do you call it? How it's good for fucking Battlefield, right? And Battlefield has some pretty fucking big team battles, right? On like some pretty large maps with a lot of things going on. So clearly it isn't a Frostbite issue, right? Like, I'm not trying to be like fucking salty or pessimistic here. I just genuinely do not see a consistent point being made. I'm struggling to latch onto any argument that could sit here and be like, oh yeah, you know what, I see that. I'm sorry, sense of propulsion? Okay. Both I heard propulsion and I read propulsion. So, okay, I guess they meant propulsion. I don't fucking know what they mean by propulsion there. Cause they showed me a clip just a few seconds ago of fucking, they just showed me a clip of Mirror's Edge going fucking Yumi, which makes me think of the literal fucking, like, what is it, like, verb of fucking propulsion. I forget if it's a verb or adverb or whatever adjective, but like, so all I can think about right now is Nume. Like, sure, I would argue though that runner, like they're okay. So now we're getting also into the consequentialness of video, right? Where they're just like, oh yeah, you know, visual style, whatever. Mirror's Edge was trying to be relatively realistic, but with like extremely brutalist architecture that had like minimal color, right? Like, that's what Mirror's Edge was. Like, let me double check, but it's like freaking Mirror's Edge screenshots. Like, I wouldn't really call this stylized. I would call this like bad render. Oh no, that's Catalyst. That's Catalyst. My bad. Because Catalyst was the sequel, I think. But yeah, like, I wouldn't call this stylized. I would call this like lacking fidelity, right? Like, I don't think that Mirror's Edge is a game that was stylized because of want. You know what I mean? Like it was because of limitation. So like, Now this is when I have to sit here and I'm trying to reason about if they are arguing that like engine artifacts are good, or if they're arguing that like the engine was intentionally made this way. Because what I think actually speaks volumes is that if we actually ignore the security here, let's look up trailer, right? Trailer for cinematic trailer. Cinematic trailer. Because if you look up a cinematic trailer, Mirror's Edge, yeah, okay, so we'll go here. Because if you watch the first trailer will often tell you like what they're trying to go for, right? So let's just take a very quick glance at like what like the cinematic trailer was trying to go for. That's very compressed, thank you. All right, let's do Mirror's Edge cinematics. That's the same trailer, I think. Oh, no, that's actually a thing. Oh, this is Catalyst again, isn't it? No, that just looks like the real one. Okay, sorry. Let's do this one. Let's do this one. So I don't know if this uses any copyright audio, so I'm just gonna keep it muted. I'm sorry. Yeah, I really would not say that this is a game that's trying to be like, okay, so this is where there's like a bunch of asterisks when it comes to like stuff right? Where like I wouldn't say that Mirror's Edge here is trying to be stylized. I would say that is a world that has a very specific, like, what do you call it? It has a very specific like its universe, right? So like it's like I forget what the words here would be, but like stuff like the clothing, the architecture and things like that are all different, right? They're unique. They've changed, right? So like in regards to like Mirror's Edge, I don't think that is trying to be stylized. I think they've just taken the world into a different direction that is not traditional to our own, right? Like it's in the same way that something could be medieval or fantasy or sci-fi and still be realistic, right? I don't think that that's really a complete thought, right? And like if I were trying to make this argument personally, I would try to make the two a lot more distinct because that just is like confusing to me. I still don't know what the propulsion is about. I'm sorry, what was that? I feel like that's a direct contradiction because to emphasize artistic style, you need to have graphical detail, but sure. I mean, yeah, because the entire thing that they're also kind of completely ignoring here is like the double pendulum effect, right? So if we look up a double pendulum, so a double pendulum, long story short, for those who are unaware, it is basically that a double pendulum is one of the most random things to observe because you can put a double pendulum to effectively the exact same position, like visually, and like just due to like the slightest circumstance, the trails will vary wildly. So like this is obviously going to be like a bit of a simulation for it, but like if you watch something like, I don't know if they're actually going to get into it here. Is this it? Yeah, kind of here. So like if you watch like this, you'll see how they're all very slightly offset, right? And then let's also mute that because yeah. But then you'll also see here that like you can just see how chaotically they differ, right? Like they're like just not all the same. So like I would definitely argue that in regards to like the engine, I think the double pendulum is like a good visual metaphor for like how all these little tiny numbers that are running through the engine, although you code the same thing, will change something on the output, right? Not necessarily as one's artistic direction can be purposely polygonal. For example, unless I missed something where he said the graphical fidelity is paramount. He kind of has and has at that point. He's honestly kind of flip-flopped on the point, right? More what I mean is like, so I understand what you're saying, but I'm more trying to expand on the argument that he's making, because for context, for me at least, is so I'm thinking about this in the context of like, how do I put this? I'm thinking of this in the context of like any artistic style possible, right? So like when I think about something stylistic like a Breath of the Wild, right? So like, let's just pull this game up. So like for those of you who are aware, Breath of the Wild has this thing where effectively the further you zoom out, there's a filter that starts to apply that makes certain colors and features kind of look more like painterly, right? Like it's like a shader or painterly filter or something like that. Like I don't know the exact thing. I just know that it's a thing that many people have talked about, right? And it's kind of hard to pick up on, but you get the idea. Can I scroll up, please? Yeah, you kind of can't really see it, but you get the idea, right? But it's something that was definitely acknowledged quite a few times, like in the game, and I do remember like I believe it was I was watching the Game Grumps when they brought up how like there was specifically the filter implemented. So like where I'm basically going with this is that like that is shader technology slash a filter like post processing step. By the way, when I say something like filter, just assume I mean post processing. Post processing, to those who do not know, basically is like, so you have your computer render an image, right? So like a shader will happen while the image is rendering generally, while a post process is something that takes place after the frame is done. So like as an example that I can think of would be something like anti-aliasing, I believe would be like a post-processing filter where you render an image, but that image might have like very sharp like pixelated corners. So you'll run a post-processing effect like anti-aliasing to kind of like smooth out some of those edges. But yeah. So like this is where like as an example, like you do need a combination of like innovation to meet stylistic needs, right? So like it's kind of a flip-flop of like I get it and I don't. Welcome to every fucking code base ever. I don't think there is a single project above like 500 lines of code that does not have some inherent clunkiness. In fact, there's a lot of other issues like that too. Like there's issues like hotspot, fucking like profiling, right? Where the concept is just to explain for those who don't know what hotspot debugging is. Let's get Squid Games out here. Let's say you have like this is the entirety of your code base, right? Let's just pretend that's like what this is. Whoops. So let's pretend this is thousands to hundreds of millions of lines of code, right? Like this is everything. This is your engine. This is your mechanics. This is everything, right? And then let's say within your engine there's a subset, say something like this, that is just something like this, like roughly 10 to 20%, whatever that slice might end up being, that is considered hotspot code. So for instance, if your game is running through the steps, you have like step 1, do a thing, step 2, do another thing, step 3, do another thing. And then one of those steps has this hotspot where you can identify using a tool like a profiler, like, oh shit, this part of code here is like consuming. So that then immediately triggers a bunch of questions, such as if it's a hotspot, should I focus on this hotspot? And at a glance, it might seem like an obvious yes. But one of the main issues that a lot of people don't think about when it comes to like hotspot fucking coding and shit is like, what if it's just a like a highly used piece of code, right? Because like if you have something that is called regularly that is not like perfectly refined, like yeah, sure, it's going to be a hotspot, but is it something worth investigating, right? So like a brief example that I can think about is like, let's think of like a car, right? Like, oh, your car gets used a lot and like, you have bad fuel efficiency. Therefore, we should take the throttle out and replace it with electronic throttle. It's like, well, no, not necessarily. That might not be a good idea. And like, it is largely circumstantial, and you have to like evaluate like the circumstances, right? Like it isn't just a blind fire. Oh, there's a hotspot, go. Because again, if it's just a high point of code, that might just be something else that you can do. Or actually, another example that I completely fucking forgot about. You might have a hotspot that's being limiting, but that limiting feature might be something like IO, aka in/out, right? And if it's an in/out limitation, such as like, I don't fucking know, your monitor, your fucking what do you call it? Like a graphics card rendering process. It's like, holy shit. There's also the hotspot issue where if you have not laid the foundation of your features yet, you may make optimizations that are harmful to other parts of your code, which is why it is emphasized to get it working first, then optimize. Yep, exactly. And like, I know there's definitely asterisks to that as well. Like, I'm not going to like hard argue that, but I've definitely heard arguments against that where it's like, you know, you don't want to make your code a complete piece of shit at first, because if you do that, then you're basically just vibe coding, right? And that's a whole other thing. But like, yeah, like as Ari just pointed out there, you just pointed out, it is like a complex issue, right? Like there is no blanket statement that will ever work for things like this, because there will always be exceptions made. And like, what's kind of pissing me off about this dude is that they're just speaking so like absolutely, positively, fucking absolute about everything, right? And then they're also flip-flopping at it, that like, this makes me feel like I'm arguing with my parents. Because they are people who generally don't rely on logic. And then so I'm sitting here getting pissed off and frustrated because I'm trying to make a point, and then they're like either flip-flopping the point or they're not sticking to a point. And it's like, what the fuck do you want? Like, can we sit down and actually like think about the point? And like focus on it, because this dude within like less than 10 minutes has contradicted himself on the Frostbite engine. At least it feels like it. Maybe he didn't, but he didn't elaborate very well on what he meant by the Frostbite engine remark, and then seemingly like revoked it. So what the fuck? Okay, so this also tells me this guy probably doesn't know much of what he's talking about. So for instance, if we actually go back to that fucking gameplay he just showed, where was it? Like, I don't know, it's within the last, like, right here. You'll see, if you look like right here where my mouse cursor is, you'll see a tree load in. Right there. So, one second, let me go back a little bit. So you'll see right where my mouse cursor is, it should be pretty obvious. Where was it? It was right here, and then tree. There it is. I found like the frame that the tree loads in right here. So you can see no tree, tree, no tree, tree, no tree, tree. So, yes, although the game might look beautiful right now, guess what? The engine is doing a lot of work in the background to try and make things run smoothly. Now, I'm going to introduce y'all to somebody called Gamers Nexus. That's right, we're going far out of Normiesville. Let's look it up. So, Gamers Nexus. Ta-da. Oh, sorry, Gamers Nexus, let's just do like 5090, because this will be just an example, right? 5090, Founders Edition review, whatever. You'll see here, oh, look at this. This is actually exactly where I want to fucking be. Clap and a half, golf clap, golf clap, golf clap. Anyways, so with games, there is this concept of average FPS, 1% low and 0.1% lows, right? So let me basically go over this. So you might have heard when doing statistics, or sorry, you might have heard there's three types of lies. There's lies, damned lies, and statistics. This is kind of one of those. And what it basically means is that so when your game is pumping out, frames, that is over some period of time, right? So, for instance, they might make that period of time that they're monitoring over like a second, 2 seconds, 10 seconds, the entire test. It's hard to say, right? It's largely down to the test suite, how they test it, what they do, et cetera, right? Now, the issue is that if you're running at, say, like, let's just say something like, just to make, like, whatever, just 60 FPS, right? If you're running at, say, 60 FPS, and then for 2 frames, your game renders at, like, 0.2 FPS. That's what is generally referred to as hitching. And then, so what that does is it gives your game, like, a very feel to it, It makes it feel very, very ganky. And to pull up one more source about that is if we look up Noodle FPS flips. Yep, that's the one. Noodle FPS, please. Thank you. Noodle FPS video. There's one that I want to reference right here where they reference a dog rolling because I want to basically put this out. So if we jump to, I've watched this video like twice, right here. So if we watch this, one of these has basically AI interpolation where, so it runs really fast for like 3 frames and then it stops. Where is it? So that's the good one. No, it wasn't. Because I just didn't even notice the thing. But yeah, you can see kind of the subtle FPS differences there. But like if we watch this, where is it? Come on, come on, come on. Egoraptor. There it is. No, they're still doing it. Freaking, what is this called? What is this called? What is this called? What is this called? I want to try to see it. Anyways, whatever. So carrying on is that so that inconsistent frame timing will actually feel bad. So for instance, if you actually have a like 120 hertz game that dips down to like say like 60 FPS, in some instances that will feel notably worse than a 60 FPS game that dips down to like, 40 FPS, because both the differences are smaller. And it's also one of those things where like the perceptual difference is not as big, right? Because one, you're going to like halftime, and then the other you're going like noticeably slower. So like if that hitching is bad, like I'm not explaining it perfectly, I haven't tested this, so there's asterisks here, right? But if like the individual frame time feels bad, on a graph, your game might read great, but when you actually do anything, it'll feel like shit. And that's one of the reasons why. Which has an asterisk as well. This is why you need to optimize your games and your settings, which is something that a lot of people on PC have to do. On console, that's normally done for you, but if a console doesn't offer that, then like that's still a thing you have to do. And like that's why no matter what anybody says, personally speaking, what I like to do is I like to aim for like roughly 20% over what my monitor can do, because when those hitches happen, if I go like for context, my current monitor is like 60 hertz. I definitely enjoy high refresh rate monitors, but like my circumstances have led me to having a 60 hertz monitor as my main monitor, right? If my primary monitor that is 60 hertz, I like to try aim for at least 80 to 120 hertz, because then when my monitor fucking dips, it doesn't dip below my monitor's refresh rate. So if I have something like VSync or whatever, or even if I just have VSync off and I'm just dealing with screen tearing, then what will happen is that my inputs will not feel like dog shit, right? So that's how a game can feel clunky but not be clunky. And if you actually have settings that are optimized for this, and judging how this guy has a glorious mouse sticker and a Razer sticker here, I'm willing to bet they paint it on PC. So my bet is they basically just cranked the settings to whatever they set it to and were like, that looks good, and didn't actually like understand what they were doing. So, hey, buddy, maybe instead of just sitting down and playing a game, maybe you should make tuning your game a job. Maybe you should figure that out before you play it. You ever think about that, huh? That's like a jab back at how they were saying, like, you need to know what you're doing before using a game engine. Like, fuck off. All right. You realize that like every fucking thing has to be tuned, right? Like those people you were just shooting at right here are not some fucking like Unreal asset where it's like dragon fucking like, 80s fucking hair metal fan, like female 03, right? Like that isn't a thing you do with like Unreal. There's still a lot of things you need to bring to the table for a game, right? So like in this instance, it's like that argument is just like, what the fuck? Like, no, that is entirely a complaint with the game, not the engine. Like, that just is completely invalid. But Dark Souls also has some of the slowest fucking gameplay that I've experienced. You will wait seconds between some attacks on enemies. It is not a fast game. You will feel clunky at times. That is not a good comparison. And it makes me actually even question if you've played the games. Like, kind of honestly. Because, like, with something like fucking, like, Ultra Kill, you have, like, no fucking time to breathe. Like, Ultra Kill is, like, fucking, like, heartbeat to heartbeat fucking, like, action on, like, the harder difficulties, right? Like, you do not have time to breathe with those modes sometimes, right? Whereas fucking this game, or this guy, they're saying... They're arguing that the RoboCop game, which I never played to be very clear, feels slow and clunky, but they're arguing that, like, a Souls-like game is fast? I think the guy might just have a skill issue with Souls-like games, being completely real. Clearly. Yeah, and most of those people that agree with you are probably people who don't do game development. Wait, hold on. I want to listen to that wording again. You could say that about, like, every fucking FPS game, though. Like, I'm sorry, but are you going to tell me that, like, Halo Reach feels drastically different from Battlefield to Call of Duty? Like, yeah, there's subtle differences, but, like... Okay, so this is what I'm also going to offer as an argument, right? So you have what is it called? Perception of time. So what I kind of want to go through here is like, okay, let's look at baseball. Baseball. Oh, fucking Christ! Baseball being thrown. Ta-da. Okay, this is an example I remember having, like, as a kid, like talking about, right? Because I was trying to understand why things when I was a kid felt faster versus slower versus whatever. And my conclusion, which is completely unfounded to be clear. So if I'm wrong about this is my personal thoughts, but this is something that I, like, came to the conclusion of when I was, like, fucking 12. So, like, bite me. But what it was I was thinking about how if you have a ball that is thrown to you for, like, one of the first times, right? The ball's gonna feel like it's, like, whizzing at, like, Mach fuck, and you're just like, you, like, panic because you don't even know what the fuck is happening, right? And then even if I throw a ball at you a couple times, you're still gonna be like, right? But then if I keep throwing balls at you, you're going, like, the balls are going to start to get slower. They're going to start becoming more predictable. They're going to, like it's going to feel like time itself is slowing down when the balls are thrown, right? In comparison to before, right? And it's like, why is that? My personal conclusion why is that when you're learning something, your brain does not know what to ignore and what to, like, perceive, right? So your brain, doing what is debatably the better thing, will perceive basically fucking everything, right? It will try to analyze everything it can, trying to figure out what the fuck is happening, right? And then, so because of that, you effectively, on, like, a micro time scale, thus the time being when a ball is thrown at you, you get overwhelmed, right? Whereas when you are more comfortable with something, time feels a lot, like, slower, right? You know, there's many things that I'm sure people can think of that are like that, where, like, imagine the first time you, like, opened a computer and could, like, go to, like, a text editor, right? And the minute you start going click, clack, 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 click, clack, clack, and it's like, oh my God, this is insane, right? What is this? And, like, your, like, mind is basically blown because, like, you're like, holy shit, I can press button and make word appear. What? Holy shit. Whereas now, like, you know, I would imagine for a lot of people opening like a fucking Word document and start typing away, I would imagine that feels so sluggish and annoying for people. So I think with this guy, what he might be doing is that, like, he doesn't actually have that much experience with games. He might not have caught on to them very well, might not understand them very well, whatever. There's a bunch of things, But I feel like it's almost a perception issue because right now I can open something like Call of Duty, Battlefield, Halo, like those games that I mentioned, and they feel slow. I feel sluggish when I play those games, right? Like I feel like I'm wearing a fat suit with like ankle weights and I'm just like, right? Whereas if I'm playing something like Ultra Kill, everything, like especially on like a difficulty like Brutal, I just feel fucking overwhelmed and I'm like, everything is moving so fast, I don't know what's happening. Oh. And I think that might be what's happening here is I think the guy with like the Dark Souls example, I think he might have a low familiar with Dark Souls, so Dark Souls feels very fast. But like as somebody like me who, I want to double check this real quickly, I think I have almost 400 hours in Dark Souls 3. If I'm correct, let's just look this up. Dark Souls 3. Yeah, okay, almost 300 hours. As somebody who has almost 300 hours in Dark Souls 3, a lot of the game feels really slow to me now, right? And the entire reason why is because I have the fucking experience in the game and nothing's new to me, so my brain knows what to and what not to ignore, right? It's just like, whatever. So I think this guy might just be arguing from a point of, like, experience versus inexperience, and they're unaware of like that phenomenon. I don't know what to call it. I'm gonna call it the Volbeat effect because, hey, I thought of it. No, they haven't. There's been a lot of micro-fine details, but like being realistic, most of what graphics are nowadays is effectively wringing out like, you know, the sweet succulent droplets of performance that we can like harvest from the technologies that we've already been like given and we're largely optimizing for. And when there is differences that can be made, most of the differences are not acknowledged or whatever because, let's be real, the vast majority of the time, you're not going to notice, like going from black and white to color will be a significantly larger difference than going from 8-bit to 10-bit color for most people. I can almost promise you most people will not be able to tell what 10-bit color is unless they're watching an extremely dark movie. Sorry, I will clarify that for people who don't know. So if we look up 8-bit versus 10-bit color, so this is effectively encoding, right? So the way that color works is, this is kind of a crude way of doing it. So I'll basically try and explain. So what happens is that so your computer has RGB values, right? Red, green, and blue, and those colors combined make up effectively any other color, right? So for instance, if we go to here, I'll show you, this is a fun little thing. If we make a red square, that's like a pure red. If we then set this to, I believe it is multiply, we then make a green square, which would be 00FF00, because that's the pure code value for pure green. No, sorry, not multiply. What is it? It's subtract, I think. Is it subtract? What is it? Exclusion works, but I don't want exclusion. Sure, I guess we're doing exclusion. And then we do a blue. Let's do a blue real quickly. So that would be 0000FF. So this is effectively how colors work, right? So you have the RGB. These colors can be combined to do different things. You know, you can do something like this, where, you know, you have the different colors made, and then you'll see that they gravitate towards white. So like a pixel off means black, all the pixels on mean white. And then because what happens is that all these things are so small and packed together, what effectively happens is that you can see the difference in a pixel, but because they're so small on your screen, you basically don't notice anything else. You just see the white. And if you ever see like the pixelation or like weird color fringing around stuff, that's why. It's because the pixels are too big. They're to use the term that Apple uses, it's like retina, where something transitions from being so small you can't perceive it to big enough that you can perceive it. But yeah, this is effectively how color works. And then so the way that it works, I'll keep that little thing there because it's cute to look at. But so then the way that the way that it works is that, so when your monitor is told to display a pixel, you know, let's just pretend that this is 1 pixel because it kind of is. your computer will generally send something that looks like, it'll be something like 000. So in this case, it would be FFFFFF, followed by some termination, FFFFFF, followed by some termination, followed by FFFFFF. And then so what this is these are three values which basically go from 0 to 16, because that's just how hexadecimal works. It's a whole thing. I'll basically save you the pain. But so you basically get some value like this passed around, right? And then in this instance, basically this just tells the pixels here how to turn on. The first one generally being red, the second one generally being green, and the third one being blue. There's asterisks, there's people who do it differently for various reasons, but you get the idea, right? And that's what will happen. So for instance, if we turn this to say 000000, that would be the blue value, which would mean that this blue value is actually off. So then the color would be mostly yellow, right? And then so the scale for this is that it goes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Once it hits 9, then it goes A, B, C, D, E, F. And the reason why is because due to like the way that like binary encoding works, blah, 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 or hexadecimal encoding works, you go from 0 to F. And then so what effectively happens here is that this is a way that people can cheat 256 values, 0 to 255. That's like the range that you have. I'm also being stupid because it isn't actually three different numbers. It's one number that is separated by fucking values. I was being silly there. But yeah, so for instance, in this case, that would be 0, 0. And then, so the way that you think about it is, I believe it's, what would it be? It would be like 16 times 16 is 256, I think. 16 times 16, 256. Yeah, that's how it goes. So you have two 16-bit values, basically, which then basically are multiplied to 256, right? So, for instance, if you want to increment this, it would be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so on and so forth, until you eventually reach F. Once you reach F, then it would go 1, and then 0, and then 1, 2, 3, and then it would go up like that. That's how that basically works. And then so what 10-bit color lets you do is it lets you expand past F to, I don't know what it'd be. My guess is it just expands to, like other, no, I think it was FF, I think is what it does. So it adds just like a third character, which basically gives you a lot more gradiency, something like that. I don't know exactly how 10-bit color works. I'm sure Ari would be able to explain it a lot better. But basically, they somehow expand the scale so that instead of being limited to 256 values, you then expand out to, like, way fucking more. Right? Let's see. 10-bit hex code. I just want to see what that is. Hex code. That doesn't seem like that's 10-bit hex code. 0 to 1023 for 10-bit. Okay, thank you, Ari. Yeah. I've actually never done anything in 10-bit personally yet, so I have no fucking idea. But yeah, so I'm going to blindly trust everything that Ari says there and go smile none yet. But yeah, so that's like how that color encoding works. So if you ever hear me reference like 8-bit versus 10-bit, that's effectively what I mean. So yeah, rolling forward, shall we? You got it, buddy. You're all good. It sounds like a camera. It's largely used in high dynamic range images or where plenty of filters are applied between gamma encoding and even color spaces. Yeah, that's really fair. I know it's also used for other places where like I guess this is sort of what you mean by high dynamic range, but I'm gonna say not so, where like you have like as an example like incredibly dark scenes. So like an example for that would be something like a horror film, right? Like a horror film that is 10-bit would look significantly better in comparison to something that is 8-bit, because it has a less dynamic range, but because that dynamic range is there, a 10-bit movie that uses less data than an 8-bit movie would still look better because it just has like the data there that can be registered, if that makes sense. Like, does that make sense? Because yes, it's technically more, but due to compression, it can technically be less. Like, you know what I'm saying? Maybe you don't. Maybe it sounds like I'm talking out of my ass, but it makes sense in my small little brain. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna make two arguments there as well. So the first argument I'm gonna bring up is games from 10 years ago. So let's see. Let's just look it up then, I guess. So we're in 2024. So 2014 games. It's largely so that data doesn't get compressed while transforming the contents, like what you said about aliasing the colors in Extra Dark. Yeah, exactly. But like what I was also saying is so like as an example, with what I was thinking is that like if you could probably use some form of like display stream compression to probably compress the signal to make it actually less data, assuming you aren't using that full dynamic range. Like that's what I was trying to say, right? If that makes sense, if that adds up. But okay, so let's see. 214. Yeah. No, I want 2014 games. So we got Far Cry 4, South Park, The Stick of Truth, Wolfenstein, The Evil Within, Mario Kart 8, Smash Bros. For the Nintendo Wii, sure. Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, MCC. I'm just kind of like getting a gander of like what there is. Borderlands pre-sequel. Okay, the first Destiny. Okay. So let's just do this then. Let's just look up, because the game that I'm most familiar with is probably going to be... Ooh, Dark Souls 2. Let's look up Dark Souls 2, because that's a game that I'm pretty sure I can pick on. Dark Souls 2 screenshots. Just for context, right? So, like, yeah, this game doesn't look bad, but this also has some very dated lighting immediately. I can very clearly see some visual differences between this and like Dark Souls 3 that I massively prefer immediately. And to be fair, I am more familiar with Dark Souls 3, so maybe it is just a perception thing, but I don't think that's the case. I genuinely think that I think this would have been running on the PS3 consoles out at 2014. Yeah, Wii U, okay, Xbox One and PS4. So never mind. I was a little behind, but like I'm pretty sure these were like semi-new consoles at that point. But yeah, so with that being said, so like slightly better hardware, but for context too is like the games didn't still look flawless. Like this is definitely like some fucking, you know, even though this is on PC, this is definitely some fucking PS2 fog. You know, like let's be real. There's definitely ways that games can be pushed up. There's ways games can still be pushed up graphically. I think that the most innocent way I can put this is that by you saying this just tells me that you lack an eye for quality. And that's kind of just that, right? So, yeah. That's the nicest way I could put it. Editors, damn. So, good high school essay. Hope you got an A on that, or a B or something. Hope the Jippity did you well. So, we're now 2.5 hours into this. What I thought would be a quick little 5-minute in and out. Holy shit. How do I put this? So, I guess I'll state my overall thoughts on this video before going too far, right? And dragging out too much more. I don't feel like this video was well thought out. I feel like a lot of the arguments were back and forth. They didn't feel consistent. They felt like they contradicted themselves directly a few times. And if that was supposed to be conceding a point, it didn't feel like conceding a point or understanding a point. It felt like they were lost track while writing the script, right? Assuming they wrote the script. And it ultimately feels like one of those things where this is a video that I don't think I can put any genuine weight into. Like this is one of those things where like even at like my very naive point of view, like okay, here, let's do this. Dunning Kruger graph. The Dunning-Kruger graph, which, fun fact, is not actually the Dunning-Kruger graph, but whatever. But so, like, to me, they feel like peak of Mount Stupid, where, like, they're aware of, like, what this shit is, but don't know what to do. And then I feel like I'm, like, just starting to crawl out of the Valley of Despair, if that. Because, like, it's, yeah, here, this is, like, the actual, like, Dunning-Kruger effect, but you get the idea. Anyways, but so with where I'm going with this, right, is that like it's this like I'm not trying to be aggressive towards the video at this point, right? I am legitimately trying to think of anything in that video that I can consider redeeming, right? And I'm not trying to be like an ass. I'm not trying to be like facetious or whatever. Facetious. I'm not trying to be rude or aggressive or anything like that. I just legitimately do not think there is a single part in that video that I can look at and be like, okay, that was a good point. Because a lot of the points that they made were either points that I kind of argued them out of if I did, which I didn't really do at all, honestly. It was more arguing them into a corner. And I will definitely say that a lot of my arguments did go the more pessimistic route in comparison to their argument. Like, I was definitely straw-manning them a little bit when I could have steel-manned them a bit better. But, like, again, even then, like, even the times where I feel like I wasn't being that, like, aggressive, they immediately contradicted themselves later, right? So then it's like, which one is it? What's your point? Yeah, I mean, like, I have to say I dislike that video because I just can't think about, like I'm not trying to be, again, rude. Like I know I was definitely aggressive during that video, but like I've like calmed down now. Legitimately, I can't feel like anything awesome. At 6 exactly, I am a 3D artist. What you tried to explain here was an asset mismatch of surrounding models from different places. And it doesn't happen the way you described. It can only happen if you don't have an art director and a defined direction. Otherwise, artists can easily make a unified style together. And we won't get a whole situation of anime models being put next to photorealistic rocks, like, say, Palworld. The reason why realism is so prominent in the Unreal Asset Store, they give you mega scans for free and tons upon tons of materials and models to pack on top of that, which is all photorealistic. It will be giga expensive to make all these assets from scratch and by hand to make stylized graphics. So what happens is studios and solo devs just choose photorealism so they can skip the artwork. Yeah, which is kind of what I was saying a little bit too. Actually, no, I don't think I said that at all. So yeah, they said it better. Where it's like, yeah, like you have to, like, I haven't worked in the industry, but I'm very aware of stuff like this, right? Where it's like, yeah, you are going to use assets. Like, for instance, one of my favorite websites to go to is 3dtextures.me. You can see the autofill is preloading. And you'll see that effectively all of these textures by default are realism, right? There is, like, a stylized section. Like, you can see there's, like, stylized textures right here, and there's some options to that, right? But, like, okay, let's see. We have fucking, 87 stylized textures compared to just 118 in like realistic ground alone. Like, are you serious? Well, I guess that's kind of an overarching tag because you can see there's a stylized one right there, but like still, you know, it's a very hard thing to compete with. Let's see. Those coding standards are Epic standards for the games. They're not enforced by developers using the engine to make the game, nor is it enforceable on them, since Epic won't be able to see your code without legitimate legal action first. The only reason you'd have to follow these standards is if you're trying to contribute code upstream back to the engine source code, aka doing work for Epic. That is also a very valid point. I'm reading the comments because I want to see if there's anything that like is like valid that I may be forgetting. UE5 is a symptom, not the cause. It's not a coincidence that UE5 markets the exodus of market for, oh my god. There's no coincidence that UE5 marked the exodus of key CDPR devs. With a proprietary engine, it is much harder to get rid of your dev team, but you switch to Unreal 5, throw that out the window. The current situation with Unreal 5 is an extension to the shitway corporations approach, profiting off of art and at the expense of everybody else, even their employees, which, yes, is actually a very valid point. I remember when I was transitioning to learning code, I actually specifically was in a very big toss-up between learning Unreal and Unity because I actually had no idea which one would be more valuable. I ended up kind of learning both, but I picked Unreal. And it was definitely one of those things where I definitely used Unreal for, I think it was like 2 years to learn a lot of the coding basics using the Blueprint system. It was very actually good to learn coding with. I would recommend almost anybody uses that over Scratch. Let's see. Unreal is, sorry, that was a good comment. Unreal 5 is going to create an entire new industry called Final Optimizer Pass. A company takes your final game and goes back and optimizes everything you did because the original author has no idea how to optimize lol. Okay, so I have no experience with this, but from what I've heard, you don't ever outsource to improve quality. You outsource to fix a problem that you're stuck on. I have basically never heard of outsourcing that has produced better code than in-house, like ever. And I believe the entire reason why is because whenever you outsource, the entire mentality is like, I'm washing my hands of this, right? So unless you get like genuine developers who are like very passionate / disciplined, I don't think that would ever commonly happen. I mean, it might be a thing, honestly, but like the issue is as well is that like if your systems are running bad, the issue is that more often than not you're just gonna have to do fundamental rewrites. Like I think his name is Hakita YouTube. I think it was Hakita. Yeah, Hakita. So Hakita, the developer for Ultra Kill. Good game, fun game. From what I have experienced, it is very performant. But from what I'm also aware too, is that apparently for the next chapter of the game, they want to do something where they fundamentally have to recode the game, is what Tony was telling me. And it's not necessarily because the code that they currently have is bad. It's because like they probably want to do something that they didn't foresee wanting to do. And then guess what? Shit's blowing up on their face now because like they can't do it, right? So now they're probably going to have to go back and either heavily edit / like learn a bunch of things. By the way, this should be in my watch later. How is it not in my watch later? Save to watch later. Yeah, you stupid nerd. Anyways, but yeah. So like it's one of those things where it's like it is such a line, and that's where actually my large issue with like AI tools comes in, is that AI tools don't have foresight, right? So like as an example, you might ask an AI tool to do something, but like as an example, I don't know what this pattern's called, but I'll basically just share it, which is that what I like to do a lot of times when I'm coding is if I go into, I believe it's just in lib YouTube stuff. And then we jump down to say, let's make you bigger so I can give an example. So you can see here, right here, I have this function, which is CE, which is just an abbreviation for create element, right? And then so the idea is that you call this function, which will then create an element and then return that HTML element as like a variable, right? So then you can see here, I have, it's like arguments is equal to, and then I have a map or dictionary, or however you want to define it, right? Where it's just key pair values, right? Or key value pairs, right? And then basically there's this logic, which is basically just like verify that this argument has actually been claimed. If it's claimed, then do something, and I can expand on this a lot more, right? But so like as an example, I really like this like map dictionary pattern, whatever you want to call it, because it makes it really easy for me to expand on the code. And like, yes, it's a little less performant, but I'm already using JavaScript, so like performance concerns are out the window already, right? And like, yeah, I'm creating a lot more data by doing this and a bunch of other stuff like that, but like this is one of those places where I'm definitely willing to take the hit, because the issue is that like this is going to be the difference of kilobytes at best, right? Like defining one element versus all of this, that is going to be kilobytes of difference at most. And considering we're on the volume of gigabytes, which would be 1,000,000 times difference in like size, that's a sacrifice that I think I can make. Right? And like, yeah, there's a little bit of like processing time too, but I would argue that the developer ergonomics here do outweigh the like cost of like what I'm doing, right? So yeah, like that's where I don't think outsourcing will be good, right? Because outsourcing won't be able to think of conditions like that, where like, as an example here, an example that I can see immediately is I don't have a class here, right? So if I wanted to define a class to this instead, right? Well, if I want to find a class now, then all I need to go is I just go here and go like this, and I go like this, and I go like class, and I go like that, and I do undefined, and then congratulations, I just expanded this functionality, right? Oh, you know what? I want to do something else real quickly. Okay, so let's also add the fact checked here. So freaking Num. Let's do let's do that. Go up here. We'll go like this. We'll go like this. Instead of args.lm, we'll just do class. Word. Class. Class. And then I just realized I can't do this here. I'm gonna have to go down just a tiny bit. So we'll go like here, bam, 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 bam. Create element dot class name is then going to be equal to let's see, args dot class. Ta-da! And like, look at how easy that like was for me to expand like this map dictionary logic here for this function, right? It was fucking brain dead. The only limiting thing there was my mental capacity and like typing speed, right? And that's because like I feel like with this, I did a very good like pattern for it, right? Like I don't know the pattern for this would be called. I think it would be like a strategy pattern, right? Like depending on like the like the input, it strategically does different things and returns an output, right? I don't know, whatever, doesn't matter. Long story short, like I think this is like something good, and if I were to outsource this, I could totally see somebody not wanting to make an extensible function like this that doesn't want to be extended very easily, right? So then, like, they might pass in arguments very strictly, or they might do it very like roughly, or whatever, right? And then so I would then have to sit there and like effectively rewrite that function myself later if I actually care about the performance of it, right? And then there's also the argument of like, oh, well, if you don't have the skills, you're not gonna be able to evaluate. And it's like, yeah, but that's where you should pump the brakes and like learn the skills, right? Let's give him like one or a few more comments, and we'll move on from there. So, why are all games today judged by how they look? I don't want to look at pretty pictures. I want gameplay, good story, writing, performance, etc. I don't get the urge to make the best looking game. It's so annoying to see creativity taken away by greed. Yep. That is a point, and that's also what I brought up, where this entire thing feels very, very superficial. I guess I didn't state this very clearly, but it's like the unusual hat person, I think is what it is. What was that? Isn't that what's his name? Radical Cap. Sorry, Radical Cap made quite a few points which felt like they were arguing for like, how do I put it? They felt a lot like they were arguing purely for like superficial things without actually thinking about like the actual like meat of like, you know, what was there. Like they're worried about like if the grill marks are there, and I'm worried what the meat actually is, you know? Let's see. I think I'll make this the last comment because I don't want to go too much deeper than this. I work in the industry, and while I agree with some of your points, I do feel like you missed the mark here a bit. In order to develop, in order for a development studio to maintain their own engine and perpetually keep developing tools for that engine for new titles, a lot of manpower goes into that. Maintaining and developing your own engine is really expensive. Correct. So for context, I'll put this as like simple as possible. Let's say you're hiring like a like, you know, mid-tier engineer. So let's do this. Stack Overflow survey. Oops, survey 2024. Let's do this, shall we? So let's do I actually have no fucking idea where it'd be. Necessary only, please. I'm trying to find fucking it's technology. Yeah, technology. I don't want necessarily admired and desired. I want like income, right? So I want to see like the dollar sign. Show me the dollar sign, please. There we are. So we can see here, so that according to this, a C++ developer is apparently broke. Okay, yeah. So let's just assume C and C++ are basically the same. So according to this, you are paying freaking $64,000 basically a year for a that's slightly low. You're basically paying $64,000 a year for a C developer, and I imagine that's low. I imagine an actual C developer who can do like game engine work is probably going to be making six figures. But let's just go with this, right? You got to remember that the people who work on engines are going to be teams of people, right? So you're going to have 5 to 10 people, which is going to be anywhere from just doing, you know, the very basic napkin math, 300,000 to like, you know, $1 million plus a year, depending on the team size for the engine, right? So an engine is a very expensive cost, right? And I'm almost certain the salaries are much higher. Oh, yes, look at that. C++. I missed C++. C++ is a little bit higher. It's almost $65,000 a year. But so, you know, like as an example with like what I'm trying to say is like it's first off, I think all this is probably biased a little downwards because I think a lot of the people who are doing this, answering this, they're probably going to be people who are like at home people who are playing with like C++, and it's like, oh, well, I work at a coffee shop and I make this much money, but like I do programming too on the side once every 4 years as a paid for thing. So why not? So I think there's a bit of an asterisk here with the prices, but again, going off of that. So like realistically, if it is a thing that is actually work, you are paying at least $300,000 a year for the developers. And that's not actually, now that I think about it, that's also not including the additional stuff like benefits, medical, taxes, and like everything else that developers want. Stock options, etc., etc. So yeah, there is a lot of uncounted dollars there. Let's carry on. So anyways, yes, maintaining an engine is very expensive. That means that around a third to half of your dev team isn't going to be working on the product that sells them and makes money, but on the tool used to make that game. This means that by large, the dev team is responsible for the engine development, doesn't make money. It's just an expensive that whatever game developed on an engine has to cover its sales. That makes sales target much higher, which makes the market much more volatile due to not meeting sales targets having a harder impact. Yes, so this is actually something that the Primeagen mentions a little bit. They got it from like a video or something that they were reacting to. I remember like the origin of it. But long story short, is this the concept of a cost center versus a profit center, right? So I'm just gonna use programming as a concept here, right? If you worked for like a cereal company that sold that gave away little computer games with their cereal, like way back when that was a thing, or like, you know, fucking string cheese or whatever, right? You were a cost center. You were purely there for advertising purposes to hopefully make profit later, but you were a cost center, right? Whereas if you were something like a engineer at, I guess I'll just use the prime engine here, Netflix, Netflix's entire revenue stream comes from the software, right? So you have to be a good engineer, and in being a good engineer, you are directly correlated to the profits that Netflix will be making. Whereas again, with the whole, CD come with string cheese guy, that's going to be an argument where you're going to be a cost center because you're an advertising cost. You don't directly produce any revenue. So that is an important thing to mention and think about in that instance. Instead, most studios are switching to Unreal 5 because they pay a small cut of their game engine for engine maintenance to Epic Games and can use their budget on the game itself, staffing more for game development instead of engine upkeep. Studios nowadays are getting outcompeted by other studios that make similar quality games for half the cost since they don't need a team to develop the engine for them. Investors like that and typically cannot see benefit of maintaining their own engine is as to them an output looks about the same. Yeah. So then on top of that too, the other thing to mention, which is also important with that, is that, as I mentioned very early on, the main reason why you should develop an engine is due to either exploring a new paradigm of development or to achieve a experimental level feature that you can't see anywhere else. So for instance, as far as I'm aware, Unreal, to be fair, I don't know this, so if this is wrong, then this is definitely, an asterisk. But as far as I'm aware, Unreal doesn't have very good, true liquid, simulation, right? It doesn't have, good liquid simulation, right? It has stuff that's, passable, but I mean, you could be like, oh shit, that's water. You know what I mean? And if your game is very heavily water based, it might make sense to have to develop an engine that is extremely streamlined for liquid simulations, right? That being said, there's a whole argument of if that's even the right decision, and you should probably consider doing other things before you do that. But there's definitely some instances where having a hyper niche engine like that could be a good idea. Let's see. You've worked. I've worked in both Unreal 4 and Unreal 5, and have for a couple of years. And really, it's a tool that allows you to do anything. I don't think it's necessary that Unreal 5 is responsible for killing the games and making them bland visual styles. I think developers are. I agree with that. I would argue more so to the studio, because again, you got to remember too that Unreal being so accessible means that a lot of I'm thinking indie developers, right? A lot of indie developers are going to reach for Unreal as their first tool, and they're not going to know what's good or bad, right? If we jump to, whoops, I'll jump back, I guess, to that. Shush. Okay, so there's the comment. If we go here, we go open a new tab, we go to here. If I jump to I made a game in 24 hours. How much do I bet this is going to be an Unreal game? I can actually basically tell immediately by the look it's an Unreal game. But so, let's see, where's the Unreal? That looks like Unreal UI. That is Unreal UI. Yep, that's Unreal. I can tell by the surfaces and stuff. I can just tell by the UI, and if not, then either Unity got a very extreme redesign, or some other engine. No, is that Unity? I might be fucking with myself. It bothers me how much they're zoomed in. That's Blender. I recognize that. That is more Blender. That's Unity. Is that Unity? No, that's Unity. That's Unity. Damn, okay, Unity. Never mind, I'm bad. So never mind. They did this game in Unity. But what I was going to say is that you will definitely notice that there's a lot of games that do stuff like this, which use Unreal. And is this Unreal? No, that's Godot. Cool. Look at this. We got game dev variety. Oh yeah, no, okay, sorry. I just remembered this. What fucked with me about the other thing was that I believe Unity somewhat recently switched their lighting pipeline. I think that's why I thought it was Unreal at a glance. I was like sitting there racking the back of my head, like, why did that mess me up? I don't feel like I'm that bad at identifying like engines from their lighting. It's like, oh, that's why they changed it. I forgot about that. But anyways, yeah. So like people will make videos like this, like, oh, you know, I'm remaking my 24-hour horror game, and I'm assuming they're doing it also in 24 hours. I don't know. This is the video that I was actually thinking of right here. And so, like, where I want to go with this and make my argument from first is that, like, a lot of people will see it's like, oh, 24 hours made with no quality, whatever. It's like, yeah, of course, if they're making a game in 24 hours, they don't care that much about the overall quality and shit. But at the exact same time, you also have to, like, remember that, like, this is making a whole ass game in 24 hours as, like, a single person. That's kind of fucking insane, actually. It's 2 a.m. for you. You're about to head to bed. That's valid. I'm gonna honestly clock out after this. I want to finish just reading this comment, and then I'm skadooshim. Let's see. So let's just finish reading that comment, and then I am out of here. Let's see. Let's see. I think developers are sorry. It's easy to with things like mega scans and Unreal's defaults using close to photorealistic looking game. And as you said in that video, I think art styles and laziness are mostly what's causing this. Unreal Engine doesn't dictate visual style, nor does it limit it. The engine is quite flexible, and you can develop your own tools for the engine as well if you want. There's really not an excuse in my book. I completely agree with that. Sonderholt, that is a very good example. So the last thing I'll actually mention is there's this one project called Project Feline, where they're actually, this is like a whole devlog thing, right? And they made one where they actually talked about how, I don't know what it was, but there was one specific one where, so they're using Unreal 4 instead of Unreal 5, because basically, long story short, they said that there's no reason for them to upgrade. But the other one was that there was, this is the person who does it. I don't know, I'm actually not subscribed. They deserve a subscribe. But long story short is there was actually a whole video that they made where they were talking about the style of their game, and they actually like made a whole devlog talking about how they were like improving their styling, and like they were specifically having to work away from Unreal's like default styling. Anyways, okay, I think I'm gonna end it there. I actually turned a 12-minute video into like a 3-hour stream, or what was that video? Was it this one? Was it here? No, that was Akita. That was the thing. Yeah, I somehow turned a freaking 12-minute video into a 3-hour fucking incoherent mess because I felt like I was messing a lot of the subtext or context or whatever. So I apologize to anybody who decides to watch this. That was a fucking derailment. Holy shit. Anyways, though, to those who swinged in, hey, thank you, and oodly too. Bye-bye!